Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. Thank you. So I appreciate the fact that we as a city open our public hearings with a word of prayer. And I thank you to Pastor Matt Ritchie with Grace Bible Church for being here this evening. And Matt, I'm sorry I didn't get out to say hello. Thank you for joining us this evening in opening us in prayer and leading us in the pledge. Okay, here we go. Let's stand. Thank you.
Would you pray with me? Father, we address you as Father because we understand rightly tonight that we are under your sovereign power. God, I want to just say thank you for our country and thank you for the way that you have blessed this great nation. It's a privilege tonight to stand here as an American citizen, and I just want to honor you and thank you for that blessing. Lord, I also acknowledge that your blessing, at least from my point of view, is somewhat undeserved. But we thank you for your grace and your mercy and your kindness. Even in our undeserving state, I thank you for your love, and I pray that would motivate us as citizens to take personal responsibility to make this nation a better place. And so, Lord, I just want to pause and also say thank you for the men and women here sitting on this council that I believe are doing what they know to do to make this nation a better place, and specifically our city. Lord, I thank you for these men and women and their leadership, and I pray that the issues that are wrestled with, maybe tonight and in the future, I pray that even though the opinions and some of the perspectives may differ, I pray first and foremost for wisdom. I pray that you would guide each heart and mind to make the decision that is in the best interest of the people of this city and also honors you. God, I also just pray for unity in the things that matter most, grace in maybe the secondary issues, but first and foremost, charity in all things. May we just represent you and treat each other in a way that is deserved. God, may our lives honor and glorify you, and I pray your blessing over this meeting and every person here. I pray all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Matt. So appreciate you being here. Thank you. You know, before we get started, I'm just going to say something real quickly. You know, we just finished the Thanksgiving holiday. And I was thinking this weekend how thankful I am for, one, our citizens and our community, and two, our city council members. I don't know if we all realize we have an amazing city council. One thing I love about our city council is that we don't always agree, but we respect one another. And that is such an important characteristic in the world that we live in today, when we don't always agree on issues, but you respect one another. And so I just wanted to say thank you to our city council for being excellent. It's such a privilege to get to work with you all. Thank you for your service. And then also to our citizens across our community that are amazing. On, let's see, yesterday, I guess it was just yesterday morning, there was an accident and it took the power out. And that accident at 12th, well, it was off of Amity, but it took the power out at Amity and 12th. And when I went through that signal, I was so impressed. It just made me go, I am so proud of our community. Everybody stopped, acted like it was a four-way stop. That's a busy road for those that aren't on that road all the time. And everybody did it so well. It just made me so proud of our community. And then our traffic division was out there within the hour and had that signal up and going. You know what, and our police that work there, our fire, just the teamwork that takes place in this community as we deal with serious issues. And I just wanted to say how thankful I am and how proud I am of our community.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to add to that. I'm very thankful that we have a mayor that serves with grace and courage. And we're very, very blessed to have you as our leader.
Thank you.
This is why she's probably one of the best mayors in Idaho. I truly believe that.
Oh, you guys are kind. That wasn't why I said what I said, but thank you for those kind words. Thank you. Okay, so roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes, I mean here.
Jingula.
Here.
Mills.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
Griffin.
Here.
All present.
So I am not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda. Council, do you have any proposed amendments?
Could we pull item 1-6D, please?
1-6D, which is the planning of the agreement with the Compass and Yale Street?
Yes.
That one? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, we will, and we will add that to our, it's actually going to move to, what section is that?
2.
2. Thank you. Okay, any other amendments or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so then we will move to number 2 on the agenda, which is items moved from the consent agenda, and we will address item 1-6D. This is an action item, and the item is to authorize the mayor to sign a funding agreement with the Community Planning Association of Southwest Idaho, which is Compass, for the Yale Street and 7th Street corridor study for a total project cost of $50,000 with a city match of $3,670. And this is pending approval in the FY 25 second budget amendment. Crystal, thank you for coming forward.
Absolutely.
So, Councilman, what is your question?
So I know it's been previously brought up by other council members, specifically Councilmember Bills, discussing all these studies that we are doing, especially in this area. I tried reviewing the packet, but my questions really weren't answered on the focus and the goal that we're trying to get from this study. I know our match is only $3,600 out of the $50,000, so you don't necessarily need to speak to the funds portion, just the relevance of the project that we're considering.
Absolutely. Mayor, Councilman Griffin, in this last budget cycle, Public Works came to council with a request for study, and the request was for $100,000 to look at this entire corridor, and we're calling it Yale 7th. It basically truncates to the north at Northside and 2nd, and then to the south at 12th and 7th. That stretch of roadway is just over a mile long. In the past 5 years, it has seen over 260 crashes. To put that into perspective, an intersection warrants some form of intersection control at 3 crashes. So all of the intersections on that corridor are basically pinged for a look for a study. So our goal from this is to not to look at like redesigning it by any means, but to come up with safety improvements that we could potentially implement that could look at intersection controls, that could look at realignment, that could look at adding pedestrian facilities, additional lighting, things like that. At the time, council was concerned with that $100,000 price tag, so Public Works committed to go out and try it to find additional funding. I applied to 2 separate grants for this corridor, and we got them both. The first was a Safe Streets for All grant, which came to council, I want to say last council, it might have been the one before that. Within the last month or so, we were awarded $290,000 for that. I also applied to this Compass grant. This was for $50,000, and we awarded that. So between the 2 funding sources, we will be able to pay for the entire study, plus even more, and potentially some design, at least on the north side between 2nd and 3rd area that really needs some help. Did that help
It did.
answer a little concept?
And just to reiterate, because I remember the discussion during budget setting, that we had previous studies in the past done on this street, but not specifically for crash and accident mitigation. So this study is solely focusing on how do we alleviate those issues, correct?
Mayor, Councilman Griffin, you are correct. The previous studies really looked at travel time along with a potential realignment for State Highway 45. This is not meant to improve travel time. This is really meant to address the crashes and improve the safety on the corridor for our citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you going after the grants. Thank you, good work. So, is there a motion on this
Mayor,
item?
I move to approve the action item to authorize mayor to sign the funding agreement with the Community Planning Association of Southwest Idaho for the Yale Street and 7th Street corridor study, a total project cost of $50,000 with a city match of $3,670,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula. Yes. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Hills. Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Actually, Crystal, you're back up for staff communication. I almost said stay there. So the next item on our agenda is actually staff communications, followed up with Rodney.
Yes, Mayor, Councilman, council members, really. Good evening. I actually would like to invite Stephen Overweg up. He's our newest Assistant Street Superintendent to give an overview of our snow and ice control plan for the year. So, Steve?
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. I just want to say a quick introduction. So my name's Steve Overweg. I just want to say thank you to you all, to Tom, Crystal, and Don for promoting me into this position. And it's my first time kind of coming up here talking to you all. So if there's a little word fumble, my apologies. But so yeah, I'm here to do the Public Works staff communications. So what we did is we had our kickoff on October 23rd, and we talked about our snow and ice plan. We went over our contingencies, all of our new equipment, which this year we got a new plow truck with sander, and we also had a new skid steer added to our unit, which will help out the citizens and help us clear roads a little quicker. We also went over resources that we have and got all of our crew members. It's set up in 2 different groups, so that way we can facilitate 24-hour snow coverage if needed. And that's all I have to report. You guys have any questions?
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions? I just want to say I'm so proud of our team. You know I'm biased. I think we have the best, right? We have the best streets department. Don Barr, thank you for your years of leadership. Steve, thank you for stepping up into this new role. I'm always confident that we are on the ground doing the best we can with the conditions that we have. And I just want to say thank you. And I really appreciate the work that goes into our pre-planning prior to the snow hitting the ground. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Rodney.
Mayor and City Council, for the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. I just would like to highlight real quickly the great work that our Planning and Zoning Commission does. As volunteers, they spent Tuesday evening last week on Thanksgiving week until late, hearing public comments and considering all of the following projects. So I just think it's pretty amazing that we have people who volunteer and do that work. So the first item that I'd like to highlight is the adoption of the Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan, and that will come before you on the 18th of February. And that one was recommended unanimously by the commission for approval. That's the Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan and some text amendment to the comprehensive plan to adopt it as reference. The next one was an annexation and zoning for the Brookhaven subdivision. This is south of Alma Lane and west of South Happy Valley. And this was for 338 single-family detached dwelling lots and 3 commercial lots and 50 common lots. So there was an annexation, a PUD, and a preliminary plat on this one. So a little bit complex, but provided all those different aspects with the PUD. And so that one was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that will come before you on the 3rd of March. The next one was a rezone from RS15 to community business or BC zoning. And this was just for a single parcel that was a single family home. They're converting it to a tax office. And it was near some other commercial businesses and right next to some residential as well. So that one was recommended for approval. And they did include a development agreement suggestion or a recommendation to City Council that the development agreement restrict the business types to what is allowed in the BN zone or the neighborhood business zone because of its proximity to residential. So we'll highlight that when that comes before you on the 3rd of March as well and talk about the specific land uses that are recommended. And then finally, an annexation and zoning to light industrial. And this is at the southwest corner of Kings Road and Port Street. And this is for an existing business that, again, I think we told you that our county has been kind of coming down on properties that are operating that are inconsistent with the land uses that the county has, and requiring that they go through the annexation process in order to get it fixed, essentially. So this one, operation of a restaurant, supply sales and delivery business, including office, inventory storage, and parking for delivery trucks. And this is in an industrial area in our comprehensive plan. So that one will come before you. Oh, they did recommend approval, and that one will come before you on the 18th of February.
Great. Council, are there any questions for Rodney?
I have one. Any news on the closure of Sherry's, of what's going to go in there yet?
No? I'm looking at Christy. She says no.
Nothing yet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for new business on the agenda, and we'll start with 5.1. This is an action item, and this is to confirm the appointment of Judy Geyer to the Arts and Historic Preservation Commission for a 5-year term expiring on March 31st, 2028.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Judy, thank you for your desire to serve. Would you like to come introduce yourself real quickly? That way the council can get to know you just a hair. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Geyer, and I am a longtime Nampa resident, born here, fourth generation, and have waited for an opportunity to participate and found it, and I'm excited to do it. So I'm glad that you've accepted me on the commission.
Oh, thank you for your desire to serve. It's always fun to meet someone, too, that's that many generations, right? Long-term Nampa.
Yes,
Thank you.
long history here.
That is great. Well, thank you for giving back at this stage in your lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 5.2. 5.2 is an action item, and this is a request for reconsideration of appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission approval of the subdivision preliminary plat for Falcon Townhome Subdivision zoning district totaling 7.77 acres at 0 Lake Lowell Avenue for Delta LLC representing Atul Karim. This was appealed by Zebediah Haynes in regards to, I'm sorry, I won't go read the numbers unless I have to.
So moved.
So there's a motion to approve the request for reconsideration of the appeal.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this request for reconsideration. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
No.
Ingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
No.
Griffin.
No.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
We have a tie.
And I'm a yes. Okay. 5.3. 5.3 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement between the City of Nampa and Tractor Supply Company for the Idaho Opportunity Fund in the amount of $250,000. The Idaho Opportunity Fund funding is through the state of Idaho, and the funds pass through the City of Nampa directly to the company. And I believe we have a representative here. Well, Robin's standing there ready to go, so I'll let you do the introduction.
Yes, I'm going to start, and then we'll bring up our guest to be able to speak. Robin Sellers, the Director of Economic Development. I'm so happy to be here tonight for this action item. This project we've been working on for the past year and a half to be able to work with this company, Tractor Supply. It was a competitive process with 5 other states around the western United States for a Pacific Northwest distribution center to locate, be able to provide the inventory needed for their retail stores in the Pacific Northwest. And so we are excited to be able to bring Tractor Supply to Nampa. They are looking at this location that is on 18056 Midland Boulevard, so just up from Costco, and a great option for us to be able to have have an amazing employer added to our community, as well as over 500 jobs added to our community. This morning, we met with the county commissioners. They are very supportive of this project. They were very excited to be able to have Tractor Supply wanting to locate in Nampa and come here. So with that, we're going to the action item. We have to sign 2 agreements for an opportunity fund pass-through funds. These are not city funds. They are state funds that come as an incentive to a company to be able to locate here. And so we signed 2 agreements, one for 5-2. This one is between the city, 5-3, action item 5-3 is between the city of Nampa and Tractor Supply, and then the next one is between the city and the state of Idaho. So a little bit confusing, but that's how the state sets that up.
Mayor,
Yes.
are we able to do joint
They're
motions?
2 separate items.
Two
I would
separate.
just do them separate to keep it
Separate.
clean.
No worries.
Yeah.
I'm the mayor, if there's discussion. If not, I move to approve and authorize mayor to sign an agreement between City of Nampa and Tractor Supply Company for the Idaho Opportunity Fund, IOF, in the amount of $250,000. IOF funding is through the state of Idaho, and the funds pass through the City of Nampa to the company.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, just a comment. It looks like this is unbudgeted funds. Even though we're not spending them, it will have to come back to the council in the form of an amendment because it's passing through and will come in and go out of our budget. So that will be in the next amendment.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman
Question.
Haverfield.
Robin, is this outside the urban renewal area?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, it is within the urban renewal area.
Okay, but this isn't anything to do with urban renewal funds at this time?
This has not anything to do with urban renewal funds.
Okay, just wanted to find out. Thanks.
Yes, yep.
Question.
Yes.
Here I'm reading that the Napa Development Corporation committed and has provided $13 million in funding.
Yes.
So you just said it didn't.
So it does, okay, so we're not doing anything with that funding. I guess that's a good clarification. So the Nampa Development Corporation put in $13 million for the water and sewer to be able to be located on U Stick Road. Tractor Supply will attach to that water and sewer that was put in 2 years ago.
No, I see. They're just hooking it up there.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So 5-4 is an action item, and it is to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement between the City of Nampa and the State of Idaho Department of Commerce for the Idaho Opportunity Fund in the amount of $250,000 for the Tractor Supply Company. And as our CFO, Doug Racine, mentioned, that this will be included in an FY25 budget amendment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Question, Mayor.
Yes.
So what is this $250,000 going to?
Yeah, so you can see in the exhibits that there's 4 milestones that they have to make. This is a performance-based incentive, so if they don't make those milestones, they don't receive the funds. It's broken into 4 milestones. One is the start of construction, one is getting the infrastructure put in for the roadway, one is putting in the sidewalks that will be around and then also the jobs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Wonderful.
Turn it over to Scott.
Thank you. Did you want to have some more comments? Okay,
No, I think Scott had a few comments from Tractor Supply.
thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Scott Wheatley, and I'm the Director of Logistics Engineering for Tractor Supply. And just want to thank you guys for allowing us to be here tonight. And on behalf of our company, we're really excited to potentially be one of your newest neighbors. And I'd like to take just a few minutes, if it's possible, just to give you a little bit of information about Tractor Supply, kind of the neighbor that we intend to be. So. For over 85 years, we've served the needs of residential farmers, ranchers, and pet enthusiasts, gardeners, homeowners, DIYers, and everybody who enjoys living the rural lifestyle. Today we have about 2,400 stores, or over 2,400 stores. We employ over 50,000 team members in 49 states, and in 2023, we were fortunate enough to serve over 30 million customers in our stores. And I would encourage you, if you really want to know what Tractor Supply is about, you can go to our website and look up our mission and values, because it really tells you who we are and what's involved with every decision that we make as a company. If I had a little bit more time, just a little bit of our history with growth and success. So 2023 was a great year for us. It was a record year. We had $14.6 billion in sales. Over the past 5 years, we've seen our revenue grow by more than 75%. And since 2000, we're one of the top 5 performing stocks in the S&P 500. So just want to reiterate that we come with a strong record of growth and success, and we look to the future. So our company, since 2020, we've invested more than $2.5 billion in the growth of our stores, distribution centers, technology, and strategy. And we recently announced our long-term goal of achieving a store count of about 3,000 stores in the near future. So a little bit about our community involvement. Obviously, the growth and success of our company doesn't come without the growth and success of our team members, both current and future. Personally, me, I consider myself blessed to be a part of this organization. It's a great organization with a tremendous culture, and you could look at several third-party organizations that we've been recognized with great places to work. On Fortune, Forbes, America's Best Largest Employers, there's about 8 accolades that we've got on lists such as that from those organizations. 2 that I also want to highlight, we're recognized as one of the most trustworthy and most responsible companies in America by Newsweek. And I say that because I want to ensure you that we're going to be a great neighbor to those in your community. We offer a lot of competitive benefits to our employees with full-time and part-time health benefits for both full-time and part-time employees. Tuition reimbursement, stock purchase plans, 401ks, so we're bringing a very competitive and industry-leading benefits package to our organization, or to your community. We do have 10 other distribution centers across the U.S. that fulfill the same products and have the same processes that we're planning to do here in Nampa. So this is not a first-of-its-kind building. We do this in again, 10 other locations throughout the country. And in those buildings, we employ 5,000 people, and we service about 80% of the products that you would find in your local Tractor Supply store. These buildings are obviously pretty big, but we commit to doing our part to ensure that we're building buildings that are efficient and environmentally friendly. The last 4 buildings that we've constructed have all been certified or are pending certification as LEED buildings with the U.S. Green Building Council. We do have a presence today in Idaho with 11 stores and employ over 180 folks within your state. And we selected Nampa, as Robin said. We did an exhaustive search throughout 5 states over the past few years, and we selected Nampa based on your community, the people here, and how we feel that your values align with the values of our company. So in the community, sorry, I'm trying to go fast, but in the community, we've donated over $16 million just in 2023 to organizations that we hold dear. We want to be an active participant in the communities that we call home. Just in 2024, we donated over $1 million to Hometown Heroes. And we're currently in year 3 of a 5-year, $5 million commitment to FFA for Future Leaders Scholarships. Our Tractor Supply Company Foundation's vision is to foster and support vibrant rural communities now and for the future of life out here. So in closing, I just want to tell you that we're really excited to be a part of your community. We bring a company that's got a history of growth and success. We want to be, and we feel like we are, an employer of choice in rural America. We've got a track record of providing a positive economic impact to the distribution center communities that we call home. We're passionate about preserving and protecting life out here, and we've got a long runway for future growth. So really appreciate you guys' time, and Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
no questions, but thank you for choosing Nampa.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for FFA. We have a really great FFA program here in the Nampa School District, and they'll be glad you're here. That's pretty cool.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
ma'am, indeed.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so our next item, 5.5 on the agenda, is an action item. This is to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract agreement with Stevens and Sons Well Drilling to drill a new irrigation well at Ridgecrest Golf Course for the amount of $546,450.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Question,
Yes,
who would I address it to?
Cody?
I was just wondering, as far as looking at the bids, they range from the low bid at 546 all the way up to $1 million, which is double that amount. The bid documents themselves are not in our packet, so I was wondering what were the contractors looking at that they would have such a disparity of their bids as far as what they were bidding off of?
That's a very good question. We had our consultant look through these, the engineering firm that did the well design, and unfortunately, the high bid at the $1 million mark had an incomplete bid packet with maybe some lacking information to justify why that bid came in at that number. Seemed
Madam Mayor,
unnecessarily high, but we were not sure on the reason.
I'm not quite done yet.
I was just going to comment on that for you, Councilman. Stevens and Sons is an actual well driller. Cascade Enterprises are not. They're a mechanical contracting company. And Construction Management of Idaho and Z&H are both GC-type construction management companies, so that would explain the numbers. I looked at that myself.
So I guess my question is, the documents they use to bid off of, for them to be able to bid apples to apples, I was just wondering why there would be such a disparity, because 500,000 to $1 million, but the two in between were still over the low bid by almost 200,000, and then another 200,000. So that just, the documents themselves would give me pause, but if you've reached out to Stevens and Son to make sure that they're comfortable with the bid that they provided,
Yes.
and that they can perform on time and to this number.
The city's consultant did on the city's behalf, but yes, their HDR is the consultant that we used, and they had full confidence that Stevens and Sons was capable of this type of a project.
And I don't know them, obviously Councilman Reynolds does, but I would just question it just because of how much of a discrepancy there is in the
Yes.
bids that we received.
And Councilman Haverfield, this is a rebid. The original bid process went through and yielded very similar numbers, but there were some issues with the bids, and so all of them were thrown out, and so the same number came back on the rebid number from Stevens and Sons. So they've had two different opportunities to look through the bid package and the specifications and feel comfortable with their number.
And thank you for including in the bid form a breakdown of what they're providing. That's very helpful, and I think is important to have going forward in our documents so that we make sure that they are performing and we know what they're expected to do and who's going to be on site. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Roll call.
Angula.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 5.6 is an action item, and it is to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution of intent to create an LID 176 for the city utility extensions and connections, and two, to authorize a public hearing for January 6, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Angula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 5.7 is an action item to consider the approval of a waiver request for an alcohol catering permit for Pre-Funk Beer Bar 2 for an event being held December 7th at Flying M Coffee Garage located at 1314 2nd Street South, which is within 300 feet of a church, and to approve the consent to cater form, which is valid for 12 consecutive months, which has been signed by the church. Is there a question?
Mayor, I have a question. So
Okay.
I was looking at the permit and for the Idaho State Police on page 335, And it says that the license is valid from 6/1 of '24 to 5/31 of '25. So that would be a year, but that has already that would have been in effect of 6 months ago. So what is the exact time frame if we were to approve this tonight? Is it this? So it's only 6 months?
Yeah, so, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Jangula, the alcohol license, that is the state license. They all expire on May 31st.
But this consent to cater form is for 1 year.
It's for
It
one-
does not align with the alcohol licensing of May
Correct.
31.
Okay, so that's a different number.
It's a different date.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Is there any other question?
Madam Mayor, I had a question. I can't find it right off, but I was thinking there was some language about them wanting to do this like once a month or something like that. Was there anything to that?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Reynolds, I did not find any of that information. I do know that this is their 18th year doing this event. And they were unable to attend, and that is from the Flying M Coffee Garage. They said that this will be our 18th annual hip holiday craft market, and it drives a lot of traffic downtown Nampa. Basically, what the consent cater form will do is just streamline this process so they do not have to continually come before council for every event or every application, because this particular location is located within 300 feet, and according to our code, they do have to get a waiver. Madam Mayor, I do have more information if that would be more beneficial for the council. I was going to do a short presentation, but
It's up to the council if you feel like you need more information or if there's a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve.
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded?
I have a
Yes.
question. So the request is to be able to allow Pre-Funk to use the Flying M Coffee Garage to sell beer
For a specific
for a
event.
specific event. Why isn't Flying M coming forward and asking for an alcohol permit?
So, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, the application is from the business that will be providing the alcohol. That's why they are doing an alcohol catering permit, because they are required to show that they have a state license. Now, the consent to cater form is actually for the Flying M Coffee Garage. They contacted the church did sign it and said that they are okay with that.
So is the alcohol that's going to be beer, going to be sold outside or inside?
Madam Mayor, would you mind if I just do a very quick presentation?
Or you can just answer that question. Go ahead and
Okay.
answer that question. That's okay.
It's on-premise sale and consumption.
Right. So, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, just very quickly, the event will be held on December 7th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Flying M Coffee Garage. The event is open to all ages with an estimated attendance of 500 guests. Alcohol will be served and consumed inside a building, and wristbands will be used for age verification. The applicant, Pre-Funk Beer Bar 2, has a valid state license for beer and wine, and the permit request has been reviewed and approved by police and fire.
Thank you.
Okay. There was a motion and a second to approve this. Is there any further discussion?
Question, just,
Yes.
so I'm trying to understand, is this a one-time approval, or if this is whenever they want for the next 12 months?
So, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Bills, it's basically, what's before you are two requests. One is they would like a waiver for the event that is occurring on December 7th, but they also are supplying a consent to cater form, which they are required to provide to council, and council can either approve or deny it. And this consent to cater form from the church basically says they are okay for an entire year. So what would happen is if you do approve it, anytime there is another event at this location for the Flying M Coffee Garage, they just have to provide a copy of the approved consent to cater form, and they don't have to come before council.
Okay.
And it's
thank
only
you.
valid for a year.
But in answer to the question, if they did it every weekend, they would be allowed. Is that correct? Every time they came in for a catering permit, if it was every weekend. But I believe within our ordinance, we were discouraging that from happening. In other words, wasn't there something, because you can't come back all the time with the same people, if you're going to do that, then you need to have a permit?
Madam Mayor, I'm pretty sure when we amended the code about a year or so ago, we took that out.
We took it out. Okay.
So we were allowing them to do that.
So, Mayor, Councilman Griffin, I would appreciate if you'd amend your motion and make it for December 7th only. And if you choose to continue to be a full year, that's fine. I would just be opposing to have a continual going. I have a hard time with constantly bringing in caterers into an establishment that doesn't have the license and not knowing when and what time and how it's being used on an ongoing basis.
Madam Mayor, if I could just respond to that. I do want to state that, so we amended the code, council amended the code on June 20th, 2023, adding that alcohol catering permits for events located within 300 feet of a church or school may not be issued unless waived by council. Then November 6th of that same year, council adopted ordinance 4767 that added the option for event venues to secure a consent to cater form in lieu of coming before council for each alcohol catering permit application due to their requirement of obtaining a waiver from the council based on the venue being within 300 feet of a school or church. So the consent to cater form provides extended consent up to 1 year from the identified church or school and must be submitted annually. The forms must be approved by city council, and this streamlines the process for alcohol catering permits that are routinely requested for venues that are located within 300 feet. So they do not have to keep going before the council. So a good example is we received this application last Monday, and the event is actually this week. And even though they gave enough time, which is typically about 10 days, that is appropriate, but for any application that requires a waiver that has to go before council, it's usually 30 days. So that what council did recognize is that limits some of the business opportunities because of that requirement to come before council, which is why we provided the consent to cater form. So if it's approved by the church or school, that is still given before council to determine if you are okay with that.
Clarification, Mayor?
Yes.
Char, did you say that Flying M has a beer and alcohol?
They have
beer and wine license?
beer and wine.
On premise? And what would there be?
No.
They're asking for
No,
is-
I'm sorry. The pre-funk beer, the caterer.
So Flying M does not have?
Correct.
I thought I heard you say that they did, which totally negated.
Oh, the
my
applicant
concern.
is actually pre-funk beer.
So Shar, just in response to the request for the amendment, have they mentioned that they plan to use it any other time other than this one event that they do annually for the last 18 years? Or is the intent, I understand the intent because I remember the discussion that we had, because every council meeting we were getting the same requests and going through the same process, and we had said, can we just give them an extension for each of these groups? I understand the concern, why don't they just go out and get their own alcohol license, but it's not the Flying M that's trying to get and serve this every single weekend. So I'm having a back and forth with it. Do they have more intention to do this every weekend, or has there been any discussion, or do they use this as a door to be able to do that every weekend?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Griffin, they have not indicated that they will do this every weekend. I believe they do a small handful throughout the year.
Is there, within my motion, can I limit them to 6 events? Or 3 events, or 2 events? Can we limit the amount of uses that this gets within the year, rather than making it open-ended?
Thank you, Todd, for answering that question.
Sure. So, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Griffin, the waiver is in your complete discretion. That's what you are doing tonight. I think it would be within your authority to do that, to say we're going to grant the waiver, but only for 6 events throughout the year.
Would that, bi-monthly, would that be sufficient, Council? I'm not so certain that I want to just say December 7th and have them back here in 3 months. Because the purpose that we set this up was to not have an application every single council meeting, but maybe a blanket that we could throw them under. My question is, I'm not going to do the December 17th as the only date, but is there a comparable number to say we'll limit them to 6 events or 12 events once a month?
I would suggest you just stay with your motion.
You have to remember, these are 2 established businesses in Nampa. They're good businesses. So we need to remember that. Don't limit them to what we want them to do. They're a good business. We need to support them.
And that wasn't my challenge. I was just trying to be comparable to the full council.
I understand.
Is Pre-Funct here in Nampa?
Yes, sir. It's on First
They're right on downtown.
downtown.
Guess I'm not.
Right on First Street, and actually, I don't see them doing it because they have
you
their
don't
own
pre-funk very
business.
often?
Yeah.
He visits Horizon Credit Union.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table and a second.
A
Yes.
question then. My only concern is alcohol by volume. Normally, when a restaurant is providing alcohol along with food sales, there's a limit on how much alcohol can be at least provided, and it's usually up, I think, up to 40%. Is that correct?
Well,
Somewhere in
that's
that
in a
range.
restaurant.
Where
this
Flying
is
M
not.
does have food products, but this isn't a restaurant. They're not going to be monitoring how much alcohol is being sold. So that would be my only other concern.
Because it's an event, it's not falling under the restaurant code. It's just an event. But every, whether it be a caterer or a location that sells beer, wine, and/or alcohol, they are required to be tip certified and trained, and they are very responsible for any over-service or underage service. And so,
Police has signed off on that.
absolutely.
Madam Mayor, I have a
Okay, yes.
question.
Yes.
Maybe it's a comment. So it seems to me like this maybe could be a way to circumvent our alcohol license, that requirement we put in place for having to have a restaurant to have an alcohol license. If you knew that you couldn't get one, and because you're not a restaurant, then why would you not make a partnership with a bar and cater every weekend? I have a problem with this. I am in favor of the one event, but that's about where I'm at.
I actually thought that we had amended our code because our code actually protects against that. You're not allowed to have the same caterer come back again and again. This actually allows for a different caterer to come in, but if you've got the same caterer, and so you're absolutely right, and it is in our code, and so that's what I was asking a little bit ago about our code for the clarity, because we don't allow that. It's my understanding. Thank you. I think we do need the answer to that question before we vote, to understand.
Madam Mayor, if you will indulge me just for a second, I am looking at City Code 5-12-16, which has catering permit restrictions. An alcoholic beverage catering permit is subject to the following restrictions. It is designed for special occasions. It shall not be issued to a person for the benefit of another person who is operating 2 or more separate establishments under one license, or to the benefit of a person whose alcohol license has been revoked, canceled, denied, or suspended. That
Fulfills it.
It doesn't, but that is one of the things that we did because of
That is exactly
a different situation.
correct.
Right.
Right. It does, we also do put about large parties or conventions to be held outdoors, need to have a security plan in place. A catering permit is subject to all provisions and may be assessed points. That is something that is new, and they could be suspended or forfeiture. And we did put in about the 300 feet of a school or church. This is something new. That is something that was not in there prior to 2023.
Mayor,
Yes,
can I amend my motion?
yes.
I would like to amend it to allow them the 12-month period with a limit of 3 events at the location.
Okay. And the second agrees with that?
That was Rodriguez.
I'm thinking.
And while he's thinking, I would also like to go back and amend the code if we're able to specify that. I think we cannot do that.
We'd have to come back.
No, I'm not saying
Right.
tonight, I'm saying in the future.
Yeah. we'll have that discussion.
Making your job so hard.
So one of the reasons that I'm going to say no is because we authorized these businesses to do just that, to have events. To put a limit on businesses that are good businesses, I think that's going backwards. So I'm not going to change my motion, so I will withdraw my motion.
Your second.
My second.
Okay. Is there a different second? Okay, so second is with Randy, Councilman Haverfield. Okay, so there is a motion and a second to approve the waiver request limiting the number of events to 3. Is that correct? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
No.
Chingula.
No.
Bills.
No.
Reynolds.
No?
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
What's the motion?
The motion is to approve the full
Month period.
permit.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
No.
Reynolds.
No.
Haverfield.
No.
Griffin.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
We have a tie.
It's a tie. So on this one, I would have supported the 3, limiting it to 3. I don't think it's, I feel like we have a little bit of a challenge in our code because the intent of our code was not that this catering permit be used every week. And I would, although, I'm going to have a discussion with them because I don't want to deny them the opportunity to serve on December 7th. So we'll just have a personal discussion with them, telling them what our intent is. So I'm going to say yes, so that they can serve on the 7th. I'll have to have a discussion with them, telling them what our intent is, just so that they're allowed to serve. So,
I think that comes back to the question of, had we approved for the 7th and given our time to come back in a month and
we could
revise
have
the
revised
ordinance,
our ordinance. I
and
agree.
take care of business, so then it's clear, and we're not trying to make law while we're making motions.
Yes, I agree with you. So I could have denied it, but then, and had another motion, I guess.
Correct.
I didn't, though. I missed, so I don't think I can go back and correct it. I'm sorry, I didn't think through that, but they are approved. And so pre-funk is approved to move forward, and I'll have a discussion with them, and we'll get a change made. So, okay. So the next item on our agenda, we do not have any proclamations this evening. We do have the public forum opportunity. This is where people have the opportunity to come forward and speak for 3 minutes on an agenda or non-agenda item, actually a non-agenda item. And do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay, is there anyone here that had intended to speak on an agenda or non-agenda? David, go ahead and come forward, and then you can come forward non-agenda item. So a non-agenda item. Thank you.
David Ferdinand, 2419 West Heron Loop. Just wanted to say to the Nampa City Council and Mayor, thank you for hosting the Christmas tree lighting Saturday and opening the Christmas season with a prayer. Thank you for doing that, for all of you. Also wanted to say God and Country Festival is July 2nd, and the list of songs for the fireworks music is being put together now, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, please get them to the God and Country Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. David, thank you. And yes, you go ahead and come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is David Tuck, and I live at 2121 South Heron Drive in Nampa, of course, and I protest the petition of Swainson's Hawk Arbor subdivision unless...
So you know what? That is an agenda item coming up in just a minute, and so we'll have to have you come back for that item.
Okay.
You are ready to go.
I'm anxious.
Good for you. Good for you. David, we'll have you back in just a couple of minutes. Is there anyone else that had intended to speak on a non-agenda item this evening? Seeing none. We are ready for our public hearings. The public hearings are to start at 6 o'clock, and it's 5 till 6. So out of adhering to our code, we'll have a 5-minute break, and we will start the public hearings in 5 minutes at exactly 6 o'clock. Okay, I think it's 6 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock on the dot, and we are ready to get started. So I'll have our council members come back. Here we go. Okay, I think we're back. Are we here? Almost? Okay, so 8.1, we're starting with public hearing 8.1. This is an action item, annexation and zoning to RS6, which is single-family residential, and a potential development agreement and preliminary plat for Swainson's Hawk Arbor subdivision at 0 West Greenhurst Road. This is a 39.42 acre parcel located on the southwest corner. I'm not going to go through the section number for Trilogy Development, representing Corey Barton. The original concept, 146 single-family detached dwelling lots and 15 common lots. Is our applicant with us here this evening? Good evening. Thank you for sharing your name and address.
Mayor, Council, Kelly Black, Bailey Engineering, 1119 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho, representing Trilogy Development for Swainson's Hawk Arbor subdivision. We are requesting annexation, zoning, and preliminary plat approval for this project. The subject property is approximately 39 acres and is located north of Greenhurst Road between Middleton and Midland Roads. This is an enclave site and is surrounded by existing subdivisions. The future land use map has this site designated as medium-density residential. We are proposing an RS6 zoning district. The property is surrounded by RS7 and RS6 zoning districts. I'd like to provide some background as to how we landed on our current site design. We've had 2 neighborhood meetings for this project. At the first meeting, we presented a plan with 3 zoning designations and 179 dwelling units. This plan included single-family homes, townhomes, and duplexes. Our takeaway from the meeting was that the duplexes, townhomes, and density were the primary concerns. We evaluated and revised the plan to address those concerns. We removed the duplexes and the townhomes. We also reduced the number of dwelling units. The new plan featured 171 dwelling units with a density of 4.33 and proposed 2 zoning designations, RS6 and RS4. The neighbors expressed a strong preference for RS6 or above zoning over the entire development. We received several emails from neighbors stating they would be supportive of the development if it was zoned RS6 in its entirety. Those are included in your staff report. We took this feedback into account and we further revised the project. We are now proposing an RS6 zoning district for the entire development with 146 dwelling units and a density of 3.7, representing a significant reduction in lots from our original concept. We feel this plan strikes a balance of many factors: community feedback, the vision of the comprehensive plan, and the housing desirability for future residents. The design offers 15.24% open space, which is 6 acres. This is unique to the area. The neighboring subdivisions do not have open space as it was not required when they were developed. Primary access will be from Greenhurst Road with additional connections to existing stub streets on the east, west, and the north. We are proposing all single-family homes with lot sizes ranging from 6,000 to 9,327 square feet. In addition, we designed this community, go to the next slide. We designed this community to have larger RS7 size lots abutting the existing lots on the east and the west, matching lot lines where possible, as you can see here. The subdivision also features a 5-acre central park. The central park will have 2 pickleball courts, a half basketball court, plus shelters and benches. Another key amenity we have provided is walking paths. This community has almost 3.5 miles of walking paths. On the north side, we are proposing a 10-foot pathway south of the Edwards Lateral. This will connect to the existing pathways on the east and the west. Go back one. On the south side, frontage improvements will be completed along Greenhurst and will include a landscape buffer as well as a 10-foot pathway. We will also be dedicating 50 feet of right-of-way onto Greenhurst. We do have an out parcel on the southeast corner. We reached out to the owner about dedicating right-of-way for frontage improvements. However, the owner is not interested in doing so as it would mean the removal of the mature trees on the property. We are proposing 2 phases with this community. Phase 1 will be on the east, and Phase 2 will be on the west. A traffic impact study was complete and submitted to the city. The study found that the road network will be sufficient to accommodate future growth in the area and the projected traffic. Neighbors have also requested a second access to the subdivision from Greenhurst in an effort to have traffic use those points rather than using the east-west roads through the neighboring subdivisions. We had a traffic engineer evaluate this request, and he provided a memo stating that a new access point will not change any traffic patterns within the subdivision or surrounding developments, and will only serve to increase possible stops and conflicts along Greenhurst. From a timeline perspective, if the subdivision is approved, we would begin Phase 1 in 2025. Phase 2 would begin in 2027, with full build-out in 2028. I also wanted to show some product examples. As you can see, these are really lovely homes and will be a nice addition to the community. We also agree with all the staff recommendations in the report. That is all I have. Thank you for your time and consideration of annexation zoning and preliminary plat for Swainson's Hawk Arbor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kelly, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Yes, Council. Okay, we have Councilman Rodriguez and followed by Councilman Bills.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't get your name.
Kelly Black with
Okay,
Bailey
Kelly.
Engineering.
Tell me what would be the difference between an RS6 and RS7, since there are two sides are RS7 and the one on the north side is RS6. What would be the difference between RS6 and RS7?
Well, the RS7 has a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet, and the RS6 has 6,000 square foot minimum lot size. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's just a matter of more houses, is that what for the density?
Well, we feel that it's a good fit for what's existing. Again, there is the RS6 to the north, and on the south, it is RS7, but they have 24 homes that are below that 7,000 square foot minimum. So we feel that this is a good fit for what is in the area, and then in addition, we have that large open space that wasn't a part of the other subdivisions. So we feel that it's a good fit with the transition we're providing from the east and the west.
Okay, so the medium density would equal a higher density with an RS6 then? Is that a correct statement?
Yes, it would require, an RS7 would require a higher minimum lot.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bills.
Clarification, based on the different drawings, there's a little bit of an ambiguity, is whether the road connecting to the subdivision to the north is being installed by the development company?
Let me go back to that screen here. That one would probably do. Actually, I'm going to go back to the landscape plan here. So the road to the north that's connecting to the existing stub?
Yes.
That crosses the Edwards lateral. That would be a part of our construction.
Of doing the crossing?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be a culvert.
One drawing indicates the water's still visible, not being improved, and yet this one does, so that's reason for.
Okay. It's probably this one with the blue.
And so continuity of sidewalk, it appears that you're trying to create some type of continuity on the drawing in front of the good property, but not apart?
The out parcel?
Yes.
We did reach out to them to try and see if we could acquire the right-of-way to do the frontage improvements. They were not interested in doing so because, again, that would remove their trees. They do have, if I can go back to that screen here, this is what that view looks like currently. So you can see the pathway on the east and how that comes in their mailbox and the trees.
And those folks were the seller of this property?
They were the seller.
So are they retaining their home there?
They are.
Okay, and so, but they do not want to allow the sidewalk?
Correct. We did explore an opportunity. We understand that there might be a prescriptive right-of-way in this area, and if that is something the city would be open to, we could put a temporary 5-foot asphalt sidewalk there. But that would be something we'd have to connect with the city, see if that's what they would want to do.
Thank you. We may come back to that during the staff report. Are there any further questions at this time from Councilman Griffin?
Mayor, in considering the phased approach, I'm seeing first phase on the east, second phase on the west. The green space is part of the second phase, correct?
It is.
And why isn't it part of the first phase?
So that is a 5-acre piece, and we think that it fits best in the Phase 2 because it requires enough rooftops to support that acreage. So we would like to have enough households in place to be able to enjoy that amenity. So that's part of the reason.
Is there the possibility, and the reason I'm asking this now rather than after staff's presentation is, for me, I feel, and it's a feeling, that it's important for these new residents to have a place to go as well. I know it's going to be the difference of only 2 years, 2.5 years, but for somebody that's 2 long years of not having an amenity to use, is it the possibility to have that phased approach cut maybe in half, or just the pickleball portion or part of the park as a opportunity for Phase 1? I don't know if you've looked at that or something to ponder. I don't need a quick response now,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, and when I come back up for rebuttal, would it be okay to address it at that
Please.
time?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? Thank you. We'll have you back, as you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christy?
Right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is for, as stated, RS6 on 39.42 acres for the Swainson's Hawk Arbor subdivision. The property to the north is the Owyhee Estates subdivision. It is zoned RS6. It currently has a 3.6 dwelling unit per acre density. The south property is the Heron Ridge subdivision. It is zoned RS7. It has a 3 dwelling unit per acre density. The RS7 subdivision to the east is Sands Point. It has a 3.44 dwelling units per acre density. And the RS7 Heron Ridge sub to the west is 3.33 dwelling units per acre. This project is proposing 3.7 dwelling units per acre. The RS6 zoning district allows for single-family dwellings. The surrounding properties contain single-family dwellings and are zoned RS6 and RS7. As far as traffic is concerned, the traffic impact study has been submitted and approved. It does not indicate any project-triggered improvements. The TIS identifies Midland and Greenhurst as existing deficiencies, but that is not the responsibility of this project. 3 existing stub streets installed with Heron Springs, Owyhee Estates, and Sands Point. These stub streets were installed with the specific purpose of providing connectivity to the property proposed now. The point of having interparcel access is to spread the load among the local streets. Cut-through traffic is just as likely through the new subdivision as it is for the existing subdivisions. Development will be required to install a culvert and roadway improvements to connect the existing stub street to the north. The proposed accesses meet the spacing requirements, and as she stated, the traffic engineer did indicate that adding another access onto Greenhurst would increase stopping and conflict points. I just spoke with Daniel, and he did indicate that we would be supportive of a side path made of asphalt in front of that out parcel. Of course, it would have to be designed according to engineering standards, but it would be supported. The correspondence that we received, we did receive some public input regarding keeping the zoning to RS6 or RS7. They are concerned about an increase in traffic, improvements to Greenhurst, density and access through adjacent subdivisions, 2 accesses onto Greenhurst Road, their current property values, maintenance guaranteed by the homeowners association, speeding through the subdivisions, and lack of trust in the city's ability to determine whether or not there is sewer and traffic capacity in the area. The building department did submit their standard Title IV building regulations. Engineering submitted their construction, access, drainage, irrigation, water, and sewer requirements and included conditions of approval. The forestry department did ask for a revised landscape plan according to some of the species that were indicated on the plan. The Parks Department has requested a 20-foot easement for the Edwards pathway and would like to have that pathway constructed. Nampa Meridian Irrigation also indicated that there's an easement along the Edwards Canal and that they would need a license agreement for any construction that happens there, so that would include the culvert connection to the north. The fire department does not oppose this application. They quote that it is located approximately 2.2 miles from Fire Station Number 6 with an approximate response time of 6 minutes. Build out of this project would provide the fire district with $666,782 in impact fees. The police department recommends a commitment to fund 0.49 additional officers and 0.25 additional support staff. So the comprehensive plan does define compatibility, residential areas, and medium-density residential. It also defines goals and strategies for single-family uses and options for housing affordability and providing more inventory to our market. This project does provide housing types that meet those goals. This project is the definition of infill. It is completely surrounded by the city limits. It's enclaved. It has access to city utilities. According to the comprehensive plan, we actually encourage greater density in infill areas just to take advantage of those city services. In this case, they are not choosing to go with a greater density. They are going to try to be as equal to the surrounding properties as possible. This project will be required to follow the Chapter 8 RS zoning district standards in our code. The homes will be built in this development to match the area. The preliminary plat states that there will be 146 residential lots, 15 common lots on a total of 39.42 acres. City services are available to the property. There is a 25-foot landscape buffer required along Greenhurst Road, and there is 15.24% excuse me, qualified open space being provided. 15% is required. Those amenities include a central park, pickleball courts, half basketball courts, pergolas, picnic areas, and open grassy play areas. In the RS6 zone, you are not allowed to have a lot smaller than 6,000 square feet. The smallest buildable lot proposed is 6,000 square feet. They are not allowed to have a larger lot than 12,000 square feet. The largest buildable lot proposed is 9,327 square feet. The lot widths and lot depths meet code, and the landscaping, as stated, has been commented on by our city forester. So there are 3 criteria when evaluating an annexation, and you must find that this project meets all 3 criteria. The property owner has consented to this application. The property is contiguous to the city limits on the south, east, and north sides. All 4 sides, north, south, east, and west. The property can be assumed to be available for the orderly development of the city because city services are immediately available to it. Public right-of-way will be dedicated to the city. Frontage improvements will be installed. Side path and landscaping will all be constructed. There are also 3 criteria in determining the findings for zoning of a project. These 3 staff finds to be met. It proposes a zone that is compatible with the comprehensive plan and the medium-density residential designation. It proposes uses that are compatible with surrounding uses, as it is completely surrounded by single-family homes. The development of this property is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it provides a subdivision layout that meets city code. It has to make frontage improvements and has access to city utilities and services. The recommended conditions of approval are listed in your staff report. These are your potential motions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Christy, thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor, I do. Christy, is this large enough to be considered for a master plan community?
Councilwoman Jangula, a master plan community will incorporate a number of different zones and a number of different housing types. They're asking for 1 zone and 1 housing type, so this would not qualify under master planned community.
But the size of the land itself, would it?
Not really.
No?
Not really.
It's under 40 acres. We require 40 acres for a master planned community.
What that was. Okay, thank you.
Markley.
Yes.
And I think Randy.
Councilman Rodriguez, and then
Okay.
we'll go over here.
Okay. So here, one of the questions I have is regarding the roads. One, Greenhurst. I know there's been a lot of talk about readjusting Greenhurst because it's going to be it's called a principal arterial. So that's one question. What is going to be the next direction for the city or for the developer to assist in making that street bigger? The other questions are this. Because of if the connectivity is going into Heron Springs, Oahe Estates, and Sands Point subdivisions, for example, West Belknap is a local road, South Glasgow Avenue is a local road. Would it change the headings of these streets because of the more traffic? And are there more requirements to do that?
Councilman Rodriguez, these are all traffic questions, so
Yes.
I would defer
Okay,
to
I'll
Daniel.
get for Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, the city's 5-year capital improvement plan, we do have design of the right-of-way and construction is anticipated in '27 for the roundabout there at Midland and Greenhurst. We do not have widening of Greenhurst is not in the current 5-year plan. The existing lanes there are adequate for the traffic that is there and would be anticipated from this development and other developments in the area. So at this point, we do not have scheduled widening of Greenhurst at this time.
Okay, it does get, when you go from Midland to Middleton Road, Greenhurst has a 3-lane? And now it goes down to a 2.
So,
right?
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, there have been changes in our frontage improvement requirements over the years. When Sands Point was developed, they were required to fully build out for full widening of the roadway. In more recent years, that has changed, and on arterial roadways, we do not do full build out. They are required to put sidewalks in, and then any lanes that are triggered by the traffic improvement, by the traffic impact study, and then we would come back at a future time for full widening as it becomes necessary.
So, follow up, Mayor.
Yes.
So the reason why we're not doing it this time is because of that property that does not want to give the right-of-way? Are they holding back the city from doing that?
No, Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, if it were warranted and the city had a project, we would go into negotiations with that property owner. If they were unwilling to negotiate, we ultimately would use other avenues that we have available, whether that's eminent domain or mediation, whatever's necessary. If the project were a city project, we would undertake it in that vein if necessary.
Okay, so now go to the West Belknap and Glasgow and Herons. Is there a local, there are local roads, but more increased traffic, would that classify them as a different street?
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, no. There is no, they are designed as local roadways. They will stay as local roadways. Any increased traffic from this development going either direction across that would not change the classification of those roadways.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Daniel? Councilman Haverfield?
Thank you, Daniel. On the same vein, I was thinking, I was trying to get some guidance as far as the frontage improvements, just to piggyback on top of what Councilman Rodriguez was asking you. And I did reach out to legal to find out if we could direct the impact fee dollars that are collected off of this development to the frontage improvements on this project, since it is a part of the long-term capital improvement plan. I just know that when, back to the Councilman Bill's development of the Sands Point and the corner there for the church, full frontage improvements were put in. And don't they continue all the way to the corner of, well, basically where that house is being carved out? Aren't the improvements already the full width there on that side?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, yes, they are. The impact fees, it would require a amendment to the capital improvement plan to dedicate impact fees there.
The capital improvement plan for impact fees really is based on the prioritization and what the needs are. The frontage widening on Greenhurst would likely not rank above the projects that we already have on that for need and priority. And so could that be done? Yes. I don't think staff would recommend that, though.
Okay, and that's the answer I was looking for. I still think that we're going to have public testimony. Part of the problem that they see is the increased traffic on Greenhurst. At least that's what's been voiced. And if we could, as a part of the approval or the development agreement, make sure that the frontage improvements are at least from the east corner to the intersection point that follows up on that first phase. If that full frontage improvement was a part of the development agreement approval, it sounds like that could be something that could be considered, not with staff's support, but with our...
That is certainly within council's purview to require above and beyond what the code requires for those improvements.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Daniel, just to clarify, currently, we're not requiring like a right-in, right-out, extra, anything there?
So their traffic study did not trigger any additional improvements on Greenhurst.
I thought we changed our policy that anytime we did a subdivision, they had to provide the added right-in, right-out at the time.
That has not been something that has been changed within code or the policy manual.
Come back to it.
Yeah, well, I agree with what you're saying, because this situation where you've got, this is required and then all of a sudden it's not, and you're driving like this is not a good idea. So, and I know I'm not supposed to be having a discussion right now, so I'm going to correct myself and be quiet.
Mayor, question?
Yes.
So, Daniel, on the right side, it appears from the preliminary plat, there's a PI line that runs along the Good property. Is that been looked at in terms of tying into this project? Because that was the intent.
So yes, we have looked at, we have modeled the PI system, and the area has adequate capacity to serve that, and they would tie into those, and they would tie in at Greenhurst as well as the stub streets that are stubbed, the irrigation lines that are stubbed at the stub streets.
What about the one that's alongside the remnant 5 acres?
I don't recall right off the top of my head on that preliminary plat what they showed. I believe the model did not necessarily show connecting to that, but that would typically be looked on at a phase by phase to determine exactly where those connection points would be. And as you said, I believe it's certainly set up for a connection there that could come up a side yard or something of that nature.
So an outstanding issue is the Goods use that connection, but they're not willing to be annexed to the city of Nampa, but city of Nampa provision, which was set up as a temporary. So I think it's an issue that we should make note of.
We can certainly figure out how we would address that. I believe the Good property likely has a domestic well, and we can probably have a conversation with them about that going forward.
Okay, any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Daniel, it's for you as well. On the northern portion of the property is the Edward Pathway. Is there going to be any safety features for the crossing there? With this coming through multiple neighborhoods, I imagine there's going to be a lot of foot traffic.
So the local roadway that goes across there, it would ultimately have a culvert across there. We don't have specific design for that. That would come later. But we would look at the safety and whether there are fencing or railings, depending on how far the culvert extends beyond the sidewalk. Typically, we try to get that culvert to extend a ways beyond the sidewalk, and then the fencing isn't necessary. But if not, if they want to do vertical head walls there, then we would have fencing or railing of some sort to protect that.
And then for the street crossing between the two portions coming across that street, is there going to just be a crosswalk line, or how are they going to cross from one side of the street to the other?
So typically on a local road and pathway crossing, there will be pedestrian ramps on either side. And we typically do not put in a crosswalk there. It is a local road. We have a number of them throughout the city, and we've looked at this before and have not, there's not an accident history at them. And so that's not something we've done in the past.
Is in the local streets similar to this, have we in the past painted any sort of lines just to bring awareness that there is crossing coming? I'm not saying a rapid flashing beacon yet, but I'm getting close.
We have done it once due to some heavy lobbying from the adjacent resident, not necessarily because it was warranted or needed.
Are we talking about the Adura off of Flamingo?
No.
Okay, so in addition to that as well, but that's a bigger street. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Daniel, thank you. Okay, it's time to move into public hearing. And Shar, what do we have?
Madam Mayor, we do have people signed up, and our first speaker is Andrew Castillo, and on deck is David Tuck.
Good evening. Go ahead and share your name and your address as we get started, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Andrew Cassio. I live at 9975 Tearsell Lane, Nampa, Idaho 83686. This seems like a pretty terrific project all in all. So I really like the open green space and that this is infill development. I do think it's a little lacking in that that we're putting infill development that's at the same density as the surrounding development. And the issue is we have to really be forward thinking as a city, right? We've been doing 50 years of low density development that it's really the prudent option to ask the developer here to increase the density on this development, because at the end of the day, you're requiring, I'm sorry, I got in here like just before this started,
Oh,
so
that's
I just,
okay.
yeah.
It makes everybody nervous. So are you speaking in support of or in opposition to this? And are you
In
looking for?
support of,
You're
but, yeah.
speaking in support of it?
Yeah, and I would like the city, though, to ask the developer to perhaps increase the density
Increase
to meet
density.
sort of the normal infill requirements or expectation of being higher density than the surrounding development. And that's because we need to protect the rural farmland around here, right? If we just build low density within these infill developments, then that puts more demand further out into Canyon County, and that creates an issue with, you know, the city having to essentially keep spreading further and further out. I also think it would be useful to put another street connecting to Greenhurst. I think that that would create a lot more connectivity with the surrounding environment. And I think that the kind of discussion about traffic impacts on Greenhurst are a little bit unfounded. Greenhurst is a street with a multitude of schools on it, lots of different third places and commercial and apartments and houses. To me, it's never been a street that's fast or is an arterial roadway or a collector. It's been a community place. And so we should think about maybe slowing it down, if anything, you know, directing the traffic onto other streets and making it a place for community. Last thing, definitely concrete pathway would be better than asphalt because it's just much more convenient to ride your bike or to walk on it. I don't know what the construction implications of that are, but definitely it would be preferable to go that route. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is David Tuck, and on deck is David Ferdinand.
David Tuck, yes. Come on forward again and go ahead and share your name and address again if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is David Tuck, T-U-C-K, 2121 South Heron, just a few homes away from the dreaded Greenhurst. I disagree with reducing the or increasing the density. I would like it decreased, actually. But nonetheless, my problem is the width of Greenhurst Road at the Kona intersection, which is to the east of the development, is 47 feet wide. It squeezes down to 25 feet before it gets to the out area. I can't think of the name that you've given it, but and it stays 25 feet wide all the way until you get to Heron, South Heron Drive, and it goes up to 51 feet there. So 25 feet is 2 lanes. 47 feet and 51 feet is 4 lanes. It is, I don't know why, but for some reason, there's no left turn lane if you're going east on Greenhurst. You have to, if you're going west, there is a left turn lane. And in the paperwork that I provided earlier today, there's pictures that depict that. But 25 feet wide of a street does not allow 2 cars and bicycle or 2 cars and a pedestrian. It must be done that the developer develops and puts in a sidewalk and widen that street. It's got to be at least 47 feet wide. And I might, I'm going to make a statement here, but I don't have proof that property that's outside of the development and on the corner is owned by Corey Barton, the developer. He's the one that doesn't like the roadway through there. Why is that? Now, I could be wrong, but the petition I signed to object shows his name as the owner. And therefore, is there a little duplicity going on here? I think if we have kids walking to and from school on that street, how can you do it? How can you do it? I have a neighbor that was out riding his bike and almost got whacked by 2 trucks passing one another, and he had to go completely off the road into the culvert to save himself. That's not a good plan for kids going to school. There's a lot of schools around. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question, Mayor?
Oh, excuse me, sir.
There's a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So what's on our screen, what's up is showing a different development adjacent to the property application. So I'm confused where you're discussing
okay.
The width or are you talking the entry out of the new development onto Greenhurst?
The entrance, the intersection that's showing in the middle of that picture is Heron, South Heron.
Okay.
As it's going east, it pinches down to 25 feet. You can see the width difference. Now, if you go all the way past the development area, the next intersection is Kona. And I'm going to suggest, in fact, I would pretty much require that the single roadway or intersection going into that property needs to match either the dimensions of of Heron or Kona. And it just can't be a single one lane. It has to enable people to enter and depart from that property. And I think one street out of it is sufficient. Two would probably be problematic. But it needs to be one, and there needs to be left turn lanes. Therefore, it's got to at least be 3 lanes. And right now, if you go down there and you come off of Middleton and turn east, there's no left turn lane. But I have to cross the yellow line to face the left turn lane that's coming west into the oncoming traffic to turn left, if I want people to be able to pass me. And the question is, why is that?
So you've helped me clarify, so on the applicant project, it appears that it's a single lane in, single lane out.
Yes.
Okay. And your comments are it should be widened so that at least on the outbound, there's 2 lanes to go right or go left.
I would say at least. It can't be just a 2-lane road. It can't be. And I know the gentleman that just spoke before me said that according to traffic patterns, it's all good. Well, you don't live there apparently. It isn't all good. With all the construction going around all over, there's 18-wheelers and there's people driving by and they're have their vacuum brakes going on and it's noisy and no, the traffic is not being served right now, and you add another couple of homes, it'll be even worse.
Okay. Appreciate the clarification. Wanted to get that nailed down, so that's an issue for us to have discussion on. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, our next speaker is David Ferdinand, and on deck is Terry Poiser.
David Ferdinand, 2419 West Heron Loop, and if you widen that shot out, the stub road that comes off of this property, if you keep widening that shot, the West Heron Loop comes off of Iowa across the street from Hawaii School. That'll give you a little bit better concept. I thought Mr. Cox's thoughts and comments were excellent. The widening of Greenhurst certainly is a prerequisite for this to happen. This at one point in time was going to be another park for the city. You know, that's at least, that was part of the plan, 15 years ago. But obviously things change. But this does create a traffic situation. If you figure you've got 146 residences, let's say you get average, I think the number was to use 3, that adds 1,500 trips a day. Let me tell you, you come out on Greenhurst and you sit there and wait for the traffic that's coming off of Greenhurst and Middleton Road that comes across where Heron Springs is and goes down to Midland and Greenhurst. That all needs to be widened. You can't put more people in there and expect those people not to drive to the grocery store or go to other places. And especially to church down on the corner, it just adds more traffic as was being stated. The RS7 is Heron Loop. That's where I live. And so if you're going to develop, we would certainly want to keep the quality that we have in Hunters Point and in Red Hawk. That's where you're moving into. We're not going someplace else. The other thing is you need to purchase the right-of-way. And I would ask you to postpone any action on this until you can get a little better traffic study, because if you're talking about a single entrance is the best way to bring people in and out of that, you're also going to have a stub road that's going to come into Heron Springs. At least there's one scheduled to be there. It's been stubbed there for the last 17 years. So my feeling is you need more work on this, and whoever's going to live next to this, we want to have the same, or let me change that. We need to improve the access now.
Madam Mayor.
What would another 1,500 trips a day add to our community? So please think about that before you make a decision to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Terry Poiser, and on deck is Dennis Davis.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Terry Poiser. My address is 1627 West Belknap Road. And I've been along with the project, and it's come through, I think, very well. But they've listened and heard the people in the area, but there are some things, safety factors and roadway. I know it's the policy of the planning and zoning that we kind of push the traffic off of the main thoroughfare, but Greenhurst is a truck route also, so it is a busy route. My concern is that in phase one, they're developing the east side. Isn't the east side? Yeah. And so mine is just to support the project in getting a second access temporary. And I know the planning has talked about it. And so my encouragement is just to keep construction trucks, delivery, 18-wheelers. We'll be delivering to that there. And if you put up the picture on there, you'll see that there's only one way to go out, and it'll be out towards the roundabout. So Belknap will be the main route out, and they'll either come in and go straight out onto Bellhurst. But when they come into the development, is there a plot plan? When you come in, there's only going to be one way for the truckers to come in, unload the trusses and those, and then they're going to have to come out of Belknap one way or the other. And the other way would be a little difficult with the turn. So Belknap straight out to the roundabout would probably be the best and short route. I believe the engineers did a good job on the original planning. I think where the miss was is that we don't pay for them to review the final plan. And I disagree with the traffic study, even though I wasn't able to get a copy of it. But I'm just concerned that there'll be heavy traffic on, well, my calculations, it'll double on Belknap. And my main concern is construction. That's it.
Thank you for that explanation. So,
Oh, and yeah, the answer, it would be a 2-car garage versus a 3-car garage from S6 to S7. So that's about,
thank you.
yeah.
Are there any questions or clarifications? Thank
Okay,
you so
thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Dennis Davis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, City Council. We live on South Heron
Excuse me,
Drive.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, Dennis, go ahead and share your name again and your address.
Dennis Davis, and it's 2102 South Heron Drive.
Thank you.
You bet. We've watched the development. We were one of the first houses in that portion of Heron Springs that was developed. And we've got, you have a protest petition in front of you. I understand, according to the staff, that we were late getting it into you, but that you do have a copy of it. It's got the signatures of a number of folks, most of the folks that live in Heron Springs. A subdivision that is largely owner-occupied, I think almost 100%. I was the HOA president for years there at one time, and we had actually sent the city a letter requesting that this 40 acres be made into a park, since we don't have a community park on the south end of town. And the thing that really the petition is going to try and outline for you folks is the fact that the city's in the driver's seat with this. And the goods, which is the piece of property that's enclaved there, sold the ground, the greater ground, to the Corey Barton Development. And the fact that they don't want to have the Greenhurst improved in front of that parcel where the sidewalk comes in from Sands Point, dead ends, pushes folks, kids, folks with a disability out into traffic in order to continue their venture westward is just almost criminal. I mean, it means it needs to be widened, brought up to the same standard. If you look at the subdivisions, Sands Point and the one Cleo Miller did across the street, beautiful. Landscape, sidewalks, adequate road widths, and then you come down on the other end, on the west end, and on Heron Springs. And I know, as a matter of fact, that we paid for the cost of those developments when we bought our lots. It was all worked into the cost of the homes when we bought them. There's no reason in the world that this property of the goods shouldn't participate in widening and completing Greenhurst as it should be for all of the safety reasons mentioned. So I would encourage the council to deny the annexation. You're in the driver's seat, and you'll see how fast these two, the seller and the buyer, come together to make that happen. Because without your annexation, they're not going to get city water, city sewer, or city irrigation. And so denying it, just based on the simple fact that if you let him do what he wants to do, you're going to push off the cost of developing that to a point for future generations, because you'll have to condemn the property, you'll have to pay for it.
And a matter of time.
And so, yeah, we would encourage you not to approve the annexation until such time that a development agreement allows for the development of Greenhurst.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Madam Mayor, we do not have any other advanced signups.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening that did not get signed up? Yes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm Cheryl Higley at 12441 South Abbott Downing Way. And if you could please pause my time until Rodney or Christy finds my address, because that's very disorienting for me if you're going to be looking for my address. I have motion sickness, and so with the screen flying around.
Okay, there you go. It's done.
That's it?
Okay.
Okay. I come before you tonight to express gratitude to Kelly and to the developer for listening to the feedback from the neighbors and eliminating the duplexes and the RS4 zoning, which were in the original proposal, and for significantly lowering the density. I had told Kelly at the last neighborhood meeting that I thought she wouldn't face so much opposition if the development was RS6 in its entirety. She asked if I could guarantee that, and I said no, I could not, but that if she reduced the density to RS6, that I would not come out against it. So remaining true to my word, I'm going to remain neutral on this development. However, I know some of the immediate neighbors want a lower density of RS7 and have other valid concerns, and I will leave it to them to articulate their concerns, as they can do a better job than I could, since they will be most affected by them. I would like to comment, however, on the fact that build-out of the road is not required at the time of development. It seems illogical and backwards thinking, like putting the cart before the horse, and is contradictory to Mayor Kling's goal of new growth paying for itself. It could be years before the widening of Greenhurst will happen, and if there's an economic downturn, it could be over a decade. Until then, the development will look unkempt and unfinished. An example is Stevens Place, now called Sagewater,
at the corner of Middleton and Iowa. The homes being built are beautiful, but the roadway is the same as before the development went in, and it looks terrible, to be honest. In my opinion, road build-out should be required, not just for this development, but for all others. I have seen how the council has taken concerns like these and found resolutions that are agreeable to all. So we put our trust in you to do the same tonight. Thank you so much for your consideration, and thank you so much for your dedicated service.
Cheryl, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Okay, is there anyone else this evening that had intended to testify? Okay, seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and provide some closing remarks.
Thank you, and thank you to the community for coming out. I wanted to address Councilman Griffin's question that he gave to me before I stepped back, and it's something we would be open to, is bringing in part of the southern portion of the open space in Phase 1. So thank you for that question.
Could you restate that again?
We would be open to having the southern portion of the Central Park be a part of Phase 1.
And how many acres is that?
The full park is 5 acres, so
The southern part would be?
the southern part, we would work with the city on the line or where you guys wanted to divide that.
Okay.
But we are thinking to include the pickleball court.
Thank you.
Yes. Another item that was brought up was the construction access on Greenhurst. This was something we discussed at Planning and Zoning, and Daniel had a great idea that we could work with the city to have a secondary temporary construction access there to minimize the amount of traffic that goes through the subdivisions. Widening on Greenhurst, if you look at the traffic study, Greenhurst is operating and will continue to operate within its capacity at full build-out, at the 2028 build-out. So that's on page 28 of the traffic study. So widening at this time isn't warranted based on the data, and it's not warranted at full build-out. Regarding the out parcel, Corey Barton does not own that parcel. Again, we did attempt multiple times to see if we could get the frontage for improvements of the right-of-way, and that was just not an opportunity that we could make happen. I think we brought up that prescriptive right-of-way and a solution as a workaround for now until it becomes available to be fully built out. This is an enclave site, and I agree with the first gentleman that I think even more density would be warranted on enclave sites. It is something that's brought up in your comprehensive plan to make the most efficient use of existing infrastructure, and that is here. And this site was designated medium density residential, and that allows 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. Our design only has 3.7, so we're well within that range and on the lower end. And we are providing the larger lots on the perimeter to abut the existing subdivisions. I think another thing to consider is that there is a home buying demand for both smaller homes and smaller lots at this time, both for affordability reasons and lifestyle reasons. On the lifestyle perspective, many folks simply prefer to have less home maintenance. We're seeing that more and more these days. We also have a housing shortage here and nationally, and in order to overcome that, we need to add more homes to the supply. And that is all I have. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there
Mayor?
questions? Yes.
So can you clarify the width of the entry off of Greenhurst? It appears that there's a landscape island on some of your slides, like this one that's out for the public. And so the outbound, is that a 1 lane or is that 2 lanes?
Okay, what we're circling right now? Yeah, the entrance to Greenhurst does have the island. It's a 70-foot wide entrance. So there's 2 lanes for the entrance to this subdivision.
But the outbound of leaving the subdivision southbound to Greenhurst, is there 2-lane width for 2 vehicles to stage side by side, one turning to the west, one turning to the east? Or is it a single lane setup?
At 70 feet wide, I'm going to look to my partner here for some feedback.
Katie Miller, 1119 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho. The entrances that we're showing here is a 70-foot wide right-of-way and a 47 back-to-back, curb-to-curb, so it's consistent with Sands and consistent with Heron Springs. So I lived in Fall River, same concept, same width there. Technically, there's not 2 lanes, but as you pull out, you have enough room beyond the island to where somebody could take a right-hand turn lane, somebody could also take a left-hand turn lane. There's enough room there for 2 vehicles to make that movement.
Similar to the 2 entrants, one out of Sands Point, one out of
Heron. Correct. It's the same right of way and the same street.
That was some of the questions here tonight, was not being able to turn right as well as left.
Correct.
My recollection is those existing entries allow for 2 cars to be side by side and one go left, one go right.
Correct. After you pass the island. You're not going to do side by side in the island entrance, but once
you're
beyond that,
into the right of way to leave, you can.
you're correct.
Okay, so you're matching those existing.
You are correct.
Okay, so that answers some of the public comments or questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Mayor,
Yes.
so could I tag team on that? What's the fire department requirement as far as for access into development? Is it 20-foot wide lane? I'm looking at obviously, our
Thank
fire
you.
chief.
Thank you
Sorry.
for coming forward.
Mayor Kling, Councilman Haverfield. Kind of depending, 20 feet is the absolute minimum. If
20.
you have 2 lanes like that, are you referring to the 2-lane piece?
I'm referring to what you require as far as for fire apparatus access into the development. Is it a 20-foot wide lane? That's what your minimums are within the development. So I was wondering since that's a split access, what would be the requirement for each one of those lanes? Width-wise?
Usually shoot for 20 feet if at all possible.
both
Whereas
of
those
them,
are
or-
one way, it's not necessarily dead set at 20 feet. 16 feet is about where I'm comfortable. I could go down to that when it's split, so you have 2 ways coming in.
So what you've heard stated, does it meet your requirements as far as for access?
I
With the
believe so.
split with the divider?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Just want to make sure that that's taken care of.
Does.
It does.
Pardon?
Yes.
I was clarifying, does or does not?
Right.
Does.
Does.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Thumbs up, does. Are there any other questions? Yes, Councilman
Mayor,
Griffin?
for Daniel, or likely for anybody that can answer or tune into this one. For complete transparency and understanding of the situation on Greenhurst coming east and west, or heading west, heading east, those 2 properties are causing that hourglass where we're spreading into the 3-4 lanes, but coming into the 2-lane right after that project and before. What would be the process for us to be able to widen that road, knowing that those 2 property owners are right there and unwilling to sell their frontage?
Mayor, Councilman Griffin.
You're fine.
The council, if the property owners are unwilling to sell that property, council would have to be willing to exercise eminent domain to acquire the property so that it could be developed.
On
The right-of-way portion.
Okay. And so, and now I'm looking at a comment that was submitted, the protest petition just showing the pictures. If we had access from those 2 properties, we would be able to widen it to have that 3rd lane, or at least the turn lane in that portion, and require that, or is that not an option with this? I know it's stated that the traffic increase would not require it or trigger it, but is that something that potentially could be done? I'm not going one way or the other. I'm trying to paint a full picture for decision-making.
Mayor, Councilman Griffin, it is certainly within council's purview on the annexation to require the road widening as part of the annexation and a development agreement.
But in order, so if we went down the steps to do this, would we have to table this eminent domain and then require it, or require it and then eminent? Once again, I'm not planning to do anything right now. I just do want a full picture.
Todd, do you have a comment?
Couple of thoughts, Mayor. So as was stated, you have broad discretion in the annexation, and could potentially require that the road be widened consistent with those portions to the east and to the west. I don't think you can, at this point, condition the parcel, the former owners of the entire property, to provide that right-of-way. You could deny the annexation and then see if the parties come together. Otherwise, I think you'd have to, if you require the road widening, you'd have to acquire the property from the goods prior to that being able to be constructed. Because you'd have to have the ability to put in that infrastructure. So that would affect the timing of the project if you were inclined to approve it and use that as a condition.
Thank you. So on the final question, I'm looking at the page number 3, the top picture. I don't know that they can get it on there. Maybe they need it on the camera. I'm looking at the South Heron intersection facing east with the agriculture land that's to be developed. Whereabouts does that outlet come from the neighborhood on this portion of the road? Would it at least be able to come and meet this latter end of the left turn lane, or would it completely come out to a two-way road and then have to go past that point? Do you need this? Here you go, top picture. You might be able to put it under the camera too, potentially.
So your question is, where is their road coming out?
I think we should, Daniel, we should get this on the screen. Cheryl will do it. Thank you, because we need to show everyone here what we're talking about.
Sorry, Daniel. Because I do see the concern, especially where it is an hourglass effect. We have 47 feet, 51 feet coming down real tight because of these two properties that I'm assuming. Have you spoken to both property owners, both north of Greenhurst and south of Greenhurst? I know north of Greenhurst was the one that sold you to the development, but had you inquired on the southern neighbor if we could buy, or if you could purchase their frontage to be able to do the expansion? That address is 1811.
It's my understanding that we did not speak with that neighbor on the southern portion.
Could you just pull that mic right in tight, and maybe, thank you.
It was my understanding that we did not speak with the neighbor that owns the parcel on the south side of Greenhurst.
Because we're currently at 28 feet, correct? And to be able to do the 47 feet, was your intention to hopefully have that first neighbor sell, cut down the trees and extend into that property and into the portion of your road? Would it even be viable to do that on the southern portion if they were willing to sell their frontage? Because I know it's then causing a shift.
Mayor, Councilman Griffin, all of the widening that has been done on Greenhurst has been to the north of the center line. There is the developments that are to the south have come in after our policy change. And so going to the south there would basically meander the road back and forth and would not be as effective as doing that all to the north, where we have an existing line already extended on both the east and the west.
So hypothetically, is it possible, if something happened today in this meeting and they needed to go and visit with this southern neighbor, is it something, if they could acquire that land, that we could do an extension and have a meander effect. Maybe it'll slow people down. They're not going to blow straight through that house. They're going to slow, go around the
Physically
turn.
possible, certainly.
Thank you.
Is it wise is the next question.
And that there would be additional engineering design that would need to happen to make sure that it still functioned well. Ideally, we would maintain our improvements on one side until we need full build out on both sides.
Mayor, if I might just
Yes.
add to the previous response on the eminent domain. Just to remind the council, eminent domain is a court process. You have to have public purpose, and then you're arguing about value. So a road is likely a public purpose, but there's no guarantee on that outcome. So that does present a little bit of a challenge to some kind of condition that the road be constructed upon eminent domain, because there still is some uncertainty as to how that may turn out.
Mayor, an
Councilman Griffin?
additional question for Todd. And in that case, it wouldn't be on the applicant's portion to require eminent domain. It would come from the city. The city would fund that purchase and then would own it and gift it to them. And the only reason I'm asking this, once again, is for transparency to understand logistically, eminent domain is a very difficult, expensive process and burden, but it might be one of few options as well if they want an expanded road.
Mayor and Councilmember Griffin, so if you pursue eminent domain to acquire the right-of-way for that road expansion, you wouldn't be gifting property to anybody. You'd be acquiring right-of-way, and within which the road could be constructed.
But that would be on the city's.
Correct, that would be on the
not
city.
on the applicant.
Correct.
Thank you.
But it could be done at the time of, at the cost of the city, this smaller portions with the applicant providing their portion of widening, with the city then being responsible for the small segments that need to be done.
Thank you. And for now.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
question for Daniel. Daniel, I'm worried about that median thing that they have there. I get the idea for the beautification, but with that sticking out so far, I live in Kensington and we have one of those and it sticks out so far. A woman got killed there trying to cross, and it's just, I pull out of that many times a day and it's really gets difficult to see. So I just worry about that being too close to that sidewalk there.
Mayor and Councilman Jangula, these are developments that were in the early 2000s. We do not allow them to stick that far out any longer. They sit farther back from the edge of the road to alleviate that issue.
Okay, thank you so much.
This is a picture of what's existing, not of what is being done.
Yep.
And it's a very good point, good question. Thank you. Okay, we are still actually in the applicant closing comments time, but it's allowed us to keep public hearing open to where we can get answers to questions. So you've heard additional discussion. Do you have any closing comments or remarks regarding the most recent discussion?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I just want to reiterate that on Greenhurst, again, I'm a data-driven person, and the data states that at build analysis, that roadway segment at 2028 full build-out would not have a deficiency. Its level of service D threshold is 17,700, and it would only be at 9,217. So that road is currently designed to handle the capacity from this development.
So,
So,
Mayor, question on that.
Let's let her finish.
Okay, I apologize.
I did just want to also reiterate that we would be dedicating 50 feet of right-of-way for the future needs of expansion when it gets to that point, when it's warranted. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Councilman Griffin?
With that data provided by the study, thank you, Mayor. With that data provided by the study, is it factoring in, or do you have a comment regarding the comment of this is a truck route, they're hauling big wide loads down that street? Is that factoring that in as well, the 17,700, factoring the size of vehicles as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I believe that it's just factoring in the traffic counts, which would include the counts of those traffics coming through. And if I understood the comment from the gentleman, it was in regards to some construction vehicles mostly, and those will change as construction is complete on these nearby developments.
Thank you.
Okay, council, do you have?
Mayor,
Yes,
quick question for
Councilwoman.
Kelly here.
Yes.
Back to the page that's the green and the pink showing the two different phases. Lot number 9 is kind of very awkward here. How come you guys didn't just mimic it the other side, 15 and 16, and have 9 there? It just looks like it's kind of dysfunctional there.
Lot number 9?
In the bottom right-hand corner.
I need to zoom in on my computer. I can't read that.
Can you see it?
Into the flag lot.
The flag lot, can you see it there on your screen?
Thank you for the technical.
On that screen, it's the, Daniel, thank you for pointing it out.
Thank you.
Yes.
And would you mind repeating the question while I was just trying to
Yeah, no,
locate?
no problem. I'm just wondering why on this side you have that flag lot there, the number 9, where it doesn't just mimic the other side, the 15 and 16 on the green? Why it doesn't just look the same? What's the purpose of the 9 lot? Just getting one more lot in here?
I think from the engineering perspective, he looks at this and just tries to figure out how to work with it around everything. That's an excellent question as to why it's not like that on the southwest corner, but I would guess that he's just trying to kind of reconfigure lots and get the density that we are looking to achieve.
Okay.
Are there further questions?
I was going to answer hers, but
Okay.
I'm not supposed to.
Thank you. Okay. With that, council, do we have any other questions that would require a response from our applicant? Are we done?
Mayor?
Yes, you have another question.
I do.
Okay,
It's in
that's
regard
fine.
to the northern portion, a part of the Edward pathway. Is that full pathway going to be completed with Phase 2, or will the portion to Phase 1 be completed and have access for the community?
It would be the portion for each phase, which was requested by the Parks Department as well.
Thank you.
Okay. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, this is an opportunity for council discussion and/or a motion. We've had a lot of questions, but what is the will of the council?
Mayor,
Yes?
comments and discussion?
Yes?
So, from a continuity point of view, I think it is important that the entry going to the north to the Owyhee Estates subdivision should go in under Phase 1. I would agree with some of the testimony from the gentleman that while quite a bit of traffic will go from Greenhurst into Phase 1, a great deal of traffic will go Belknap. And I think there should be that third opportunity, and that should be included in Phase 1, the crossing.
And are you okay with, they did say that they would create a construction entrance off of Greenhurst, a secondary one?
Well, my next comment was that I feel like the improvements on Greenhurst should be done in Phase 1 as well. I realize it stacks up the phase. I fully understand that. But from as much continuity of whatever the decision is on Greenhurst, so I don't think there's a necessary for a construction entry on Greenhurst. I think it just improves to do the deacceleration and acceleration lanes, or to do what the engineering has decided upon, because you have your construction entry and your walk-off area is their Phase 2 part of the plat. I don't think it does anything to say send in construction in and not in on the other. I think the issue is getting the continuity on out to the other entries. And so, you know, those are my initial thoughts on the plat. I'm disappointed that the Goods have been hard-nosed on receiving the benefit of selling and the benefits they've been given over the last 15 years, to then not want Greenhurst to be continuity along Greenhurst. I find that very disappointing. I think it creates awkwardness for all parties, the city, the developer, and the homeowners who exist there and the homeowners to come. I further concur that this layout fits with layout that was intended 15 years ago in connecting to the various streets. It has very much community. Community allowed to then use the streets and sidewalk to get to Iowa and the school and the park that's on Iowa. That was the intent. That was the request and requirement of City Council in the odds. The additional of park space in this development is a benefit. The RS6 and RS7 are compatible from my perspective. My main concern, and I feel like the developer is getting squeezed in a sense, other than not having negotiated that right-of-way on Greenhurst before purchasing. I just feel like that's a real impediment. The house on the west end that's been there for years and years, the city then would have to negotiate. The option that's up for sale that, would be to buy and get the right of way and then turn around and resell the house. So it's a difficult one for me because this finally is coming forward with what was planned nearly 20 years ago, and all the energy that went into getting this area of town done and developed, and then to have one property owner create a real impediment is a disappointment for me personally. It causes me difficulty to say whether I should vote or not vote. I believe the plat is done well with the tweaking that's needed, that's been commented on. Whether to tie something on the annexation is almost creating a tying arrangement to force the applicant to go back and get the right-of-way, and it puts the goods even in further position to demand. So I'm a little mixed on that issue. So those are my thoughts and comments. Otherwise, I think this redo from what was previously proposed is compatible and much better, and in general fits in with the harmony of what the plan was.
Thank you, Councilman Bills. Councilwoman
Mayor?
Jane Giver.
Thank you. I, for one, love functional green space within a community because it allows people to get together and feel like a sense of community. So my only recommendation on that would be, I love the pickleball courts and the stuff that you have going on. I do like the idea of having that in phase one. But maybe on the other side, like a pavilion or some sort of just a gathering space, something that just brings people together, I would recommend that. I am not usually one that is for eminent domain. I don't love the idea of telling people what to do with their property, and it forces it onto the city. I would so much rather postpone this, allow the buyer and seller to work together and try to come up, because we need that right of way. But I don't think it's the city's responsibility to acquire that. I think that just needs to be negotiated and see if we can figure that out. Unfortunately, that's where I stand on that. But I agree that it does need to happen, and we do need to make that congruent there. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez.
I agree on the eminent domain. That should be number one first. Because of that, I believe the developer had to change the plat the way it was directed, I believe. So I think that's important for us to do. But then again, I'm not saying we have to do that, because I really have a hard time with eminent domain projects. However, one thing I am concerned about is, or I should say the other thing I'm concerned about, is the traffic. Greenhurst Road is an arterial road. And the more residences we have, the more vehicles, the more traffic. It's a nightmare as it is now. So I think that we need to change that and widen it and give it like turn signal, or not turn signal, but turn lanes on that street to make it easier for entry and exit. The other thing I'm having trouble with is there are zonings of RS7 on east and west, and I think on the south, and we have 6 on the north. I don't agree with RS4 to be in this place, simply because it has to be continuous. It has to be fit within the designated residences that already live there. So I'm having a struggle with their RS4.
But there is not any RS4 in this plan.
It's a new proposal, see attached concept map.
This is RS6.
This is RS6,
Fully,
okay.
yeah, no
Disregard
4.
that. Disregard that. I must have read the one here. This is a new proposal, see attached concept map. That's not it.
That's fine, no.
Oh, my bad.
It is RS6.
Okay.
Yeah.
The entry and the exit is a concern, and I think Councilman Bills has addressed that fairly well. So I'm having a hard time on this one. I think it needs to be developed. I like the way it's developed, but the zoning has me hung up along with Greenhurst Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Haverfield?
I have a couple of suggestions to go along with Councilman Bill's comments. Again, I agree with the RS6 proposal because it is compatible with the balance of the neighborhood. Increased density, I don't think would be something that I would support. If the crossover to the north is added to this development, I would strongly recommend that signage be placed at both the north and the east across into the Sands Point. That would restrict construction access into those areas so that truck traffic would be circulated back through and out the main entry that's being proposed onto Greenhurst. I don't think a secondary construction access is necessary because there is already a loop planned in the first phase. We talked about the fire engine access, so as long as that's being checked by the fire department plan review, that's fine with me, but I would support that full frontage improvements be placed along Greenhurst as well, at least across from the east property corner to the entry point in the first phase. The balance of it could be developed in the second phase, but again, when the second phase is developed, that the full frontage improvements would be provided as a part of the development agreement. And then as far as the green area, I would suggest that 2 acres minimum be developed as a part of phase 1, whereas again, it was originally mentioned that that wasn't intended to be a part of the first phase, but follow-up conversation, there was an indication that they would be willing to go ahead and develop half of that park area. And I think that's I had 6 items. So
Would that be a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
No, you sit down.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, I would just caution the signage and restriction of construction traffic. The council has placed that type of a condition in the past, and our ability to enforce that and manage that is without a police car there at all times is very challenging.
Yeah.
And so I would just, I want to set expectation if that is the condition, a condition that's attached, that no construction traffic travel through the other subdivisions, that is not something that is truly enforceable. And so just managing expectation.
I understand your point. I think it acts as a deterrent, though. If they see a sign, if they read the sign, they'll know not to go through that. And then the neighbors would have something at least to be able to come back to the mayor's office and say that truck traffic is coming through the development when it's not supposed to.
It gives us something. It gives us something to go back on. If we don't have and I understand, Daniel, exactly what you're saying. It's very difficult for us to monitor and enforce. However, if there's a flagrant violation and a real nuisance, it gives us something to go back on. And that is, there was a requirement that construction traffic did not go through the neighborhoods.
And
so,
there are times during paving and during other operations where there may be times where it is necessary to come in a certain direction so that paving can be done on a specific street or those types of things. And that's the challenge that we run into, that there are times it may be necessary, but, you know, placing a sign, but managing that expectation that it's very difficult to enforce and may be times where it's necessary.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Quick follow-up.
Yes.
So what would happen if there was a temporary barricade set and left there until a certain build-out portion, and Belknap was then opened up?
That was what happened in the previous situation at Meadowcrest, between Meadowcrest and Roosevelt Park. And it was very difficult to enforce.
Very difficult to
because
manage.
Yes, the sign would get moved, the sign, and so it's very challenging for staff to enforce a condition like that.
Okay. Just wanted to get that clarity put out, so.
So, yes.
Mayor, one other point, just following up on my previous comments about the lack of certainty if there was a condition regarding the eminent domain. I would caution against making that a condition if you were inclined to approve it.
Wasn't in my motion.
I didn't hear that comment. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think it was directly related to their property, and then the city will have to come back, aside from the development, and deal with those issues. So I think we're absorbing that. Thank you. Okay, so I believe, is there a motion?
I did have.
You have a question?
I
Okay.
do, and it's for Todd. Todd, if we, and there's a different motion probably going to be coming before us, but if we required that we had that frontage part of the motion, me bringing up eminent domain was not to say it was an option. I would likely almost never vote for eminent domain, but that is such a strict option between these. If we did require a part of the development agreement that frontage be acquired and then used to expand the road, doesn't that leave it in the ballpark of the buyer and seller to work out before the project can move forward, rather than denying it? Because that's not my intention. I think the project has some.
I think the motion on the table that is coming forward does not involve the developer to be involved in the acquisition of that property. That isn't the motion that's coming forward. So let's hear the motion, and then we can adjust the motion afterwards, if that's okay. I think it'll answer the question.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it then. On the screen, it does say that I would move to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 potential development agreement and preliminary plat for Swainson's Hawk Arbor subdivision. I don't know if I pronounced that right. At 0 West Greenhurst Road for Trilogy Development representing Corey Barton, annexation number 310-2024, and that's SPP 001502024, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report, and that the development agreement be expanded to include signage be placed by the developer at the two crossover locations, one to the east and one to the north, that would state that construction access is prohibited into the subdivisions, that the crossover to the north be a part of the first phase, and that full frontage improvements would be developed in the first phase along frontage of Greenhurst to the access point into the subdivision. This full frontage access for the balance of the frontage on Greenhurst would be developed for the second phase when that phase is developed. That a minimum of 2 acres of the landscape park be developed, and that would be the southernmost portion of it. That includes the pickleball courts for Natalie to be included in this first phase. And I believe that's my motion.
Got it. Is there a second? Wow. No second.
Wow. Just because I made the motion, huh?
Not at
Okay,
all.
so that motion failed. Okay, so where are we going, council?
Mayor,
Yes.
Back to my question, can we require the frontage be a part of the development? And Randy, it's not because you made the motion. I liked everything you said in there, except for that one portion. I think that hourglass and that, I think.
Did you include that?
No. This-
Oh, you don't own that property?
I know they don't own that property, but requiring that they purchase or acquire the frontage of either the north or south, I don't care. Maybe it's bad policy making to have a bow in it, but if one's unwilling and the southern neighbor has not even been asked, I think it's important to go from here, find 1 to 2 neighbors. I think this is a money game where it's how much is it going to be to acquire that frontage? Once again, I liked everything about the motion, but I would like to include that it's a full phase. And I don't know that we can tie that to an approval. Or can we? They just have to, however long it takes them to get the purchase of the frontage.
So Mayor and Councilmember Griffin, the challenge and the concern I have with putting some kind of condition like that upon it would be that is something that they do not control, and you're conditioning an approval on something that they don't control. I think if you are concerned enough about that, the better course would be to deny or give them an opportunity to try to work it out and bring it back. But to deny and then see if they can give them guidance on what they might do to obtain approval and see if they can and come back. But conditioning an approval so you have an approval based on something that they don't control to be able to meet is a concern with the effectiveness of that approval. It's more like a constructive denial.
Mayor Kling.
Okay, Councilman Rodriguez and then Councilman Reynolds.
Okay, so
Okay.
I like the motion, Randy. However, I don't like the zone. I would be in favor of an RS7.
That's 4 houses.
No,
That's per acre.
it isn't. It's,
Oh, I'm sorry, 7,000 square feet.
the density, though, is very close to RS7.
Yeah. I think I would go with that more than the 6.
I'd like to make a comment on that, and I
Okay.
appreciate your comment.
I'm just
One of the
thinking out
things
loud,
that,
Mayor.
well, one of the things that was mentioned earlier is that the RS7s that surround this do not have any open green space required. This is an RS6. The density goes from 3.33, 3.44 to 3.7.
Right.
So it's not very much difference, but it has open green space, which is really nice. And so in this case, I'm supportive of an RS6, even though it's surrounded by 7s, because of the open green space, which is actually a wonderful amenity, because the people there, one of the comments that was, there aren't too many parks out there. So this has its own park, and especially with pickleball courts. So I think it's a good development. And I don't normally speak up a lot, but I support what Randy shared. Because I think that the frontage improvements need to be made. I think the open green space needs to be done in the first half of the subdivision and all the restrictions that were put on it.
When you have original subdivisions that developed good quality homes, you would think that the neighbor would do the same thing. And so that's the only reason I'm saying is continuity within that neighborhood, Mayor. And I agree with you too. I do. But I think if you have these beautiful homes on both sides and on the south side, and I think we need to keep that continuity, that amount that we have in that subdivision with the entire area. Because right next to that, there's a golf course. On the east side is our major businesses. So that's what I worry about, Mayor, and that's the reason I'm saying that. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
I think it was, yes. Councilman Reynolds. And then Jane Giller, do you have a comment?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
I liked most everything that Councilman Haverfield had to say, with the exception of the construction signs. But with that being said, this to me, that right-of-way needs to be purchased on Greenhurst to make this correct. We've been talking about this for a long time in Nampa about how we want the right developments in the right time in the right place. And to do that right, we need to fix that road. I remember voting no on one on Victory, maybe not Victory. Anyway, somewhere up there that didn't have a right in, right out, and it bothers me when you don't have the space that you need. I'm going to make a motion that we continue this and let the developer have some time to go back and negotiate this. I realize it adds cost to the development, but I'm going to make a motion and take a stab at it, see if I can get a second on that to continue this until, give the developer time to ask that question.
So typically we continue to a date certain. And so let's identify what that date certain is. I have a feeling it's February.
I think it's
It
actually
could be
March.
March 3rd, or is it the next one
Give
in
me
March?
just a minute, I'll bring up the calendar.
That's to come back and do
To
more
come back.
business than full public hearing, right?
Yeah, we
The
have,
public hearing is closed at this time, so this would be coming back. We would not reopen the public hearing. We would come back, well, we may have to reopen the public hearing if there's a considerable change. Todd, would we reopen it now, or can we reopen it that night, depending on what comes back?
Mayor, I think you're still in, when you closed the public hearing, you were still in the response period for the applicant. So if it's a question for the applicant, and the specific question being, were you able to acquire that right-of-way? I don't think you have to go through the whole hearing again. Just reopen it for that one question, close it again, and do your deliberation.
Okay.
If it gets, more than that, if it's still questions to the applicant, that's okay. But if there's a substantial change to the design of the project, you're looking for
And we're not looking for
any of that, then that's a different, but.
Okay, so there was a motion to continue to date certain of,
Mayor, we have 2 public hearings of the 3 that we typically scheduled on March 3rd. So this would finalize the 3rd.
okay, so date certain of March 3? Is there, there's a motion and a second? Is there any discussion? Can we do roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Everfield.
Sorry, my microphone wasn't on. In deference to the developer, I'm, decisions like this sometimes kill projects. I've seen that happen at this level. But if it's the will of the council to continue this, then I'll vote yes.
Griffin.
Mayor, and then an additional question. You already have the votes, so never mind, yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we have continued it to March 3rd. I think what you heard tonight, just for clarity, was that their support of the project. I think there are restrictions. I think what the people have said is construction traffic is concerning. It's the traffic and the entrance on the road. I think you know what you're charged with is how can we get that property? Because we are going to require that expansion. I know it's pushed back now for 3 months? Yes. I don't know what that does to you. So thank you. Okay, thank you, guys. I apologize that we've had a long wait to get to 8:02. I need to ask council, do we need a quick break before we step into the last one, or is the last one pretty fast?
Last one's
Yes.
pretty fast, isn't it?
Council, do you need a break? Okay, I think council needs a 5-minute break. I apologize. Thank you for waiting. Okay, guys, we're going to do a quick break. Okay, I think we're ready to move forward. Okay. Guys, we're ready to start. Okay. I don't know where we just lost Randy. Can you let him know we're ready to, I'm sorry. You don't have to, but. No. Council, we're going to start as soon as we get a quorum back at the bench. Sorry. I'm sorry you're waiting. Okay. Okay, we have a quorum. We are going to go ahead and get started. 8.2 is an action item. This is a variance of our Nampa City Code 1022-6B, which specifies one parking space per 700 square feet of gross floor space for wholesale and storage buildings operations when employees are regularly occupying said space, to allow reduction of parking spaces for the site of 116.11 acres industrial warehouse development at the northeast corner of Ustick Road and Midland in the light industrial zoning district. This is addressed as 00000000 and 9792 Ustick Road for Bradley Anderson of H&M Architects or engineers, representing RRMCC7 LLC and RRNMIP LLC, Timothy L. Violi. I said that wrong, probably. The original concept is to reduce the number of parking spaces for off-street parking from the 1,429 required by code to 500, an amount that provides substantially more parking than the anticipated maximum 300 required at employee shift change and allows for more than one space on site. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening, and thank you for sharing your name and address as you go forward.
Mayor and council, my name is Brad Anderson, and I'm with H&M Company, 50 Security Drive in Jackson, Tennessee. We are the design build firm for the Tractor Supply Distribution Center project. This will be our 7th distribution center to construct for Tractor Supply. The parking variance application before you identified the client as Project Spud. However, since the submittal of the application, the client has now revealed their identity as Tractor Supply Company. The project will be a 864,712 square foot distribution center with 150,000 square foot of future expansion located on 116 acres. The DC will contain rack and bulk storage of consumer products that are sold in the Tractor Supply stores, retail stores. This DC will be utilized to replenish over 200 stores in the northwest region of the United States. The property proposed for this is currently zoned IL, which is light industrial, and this facility meets the zoning requirements, and therefore the property is entitled for this building use. The purpose of this variance is to provide less parking than is required in the City of Napa zoning ordinance NCC 10-22-6B. As you mentioned, the ordinance requires one space per 700 square feet of floor space. This totals 1,429 employee parking spaces required for the building, including the future expansion. The project proposes to provide 500 employee parking spaces, and this is more than twice as required of what we're actually going to provide. The proposed parking lot that we're going to provide was determined by the total number of employees on the two largest shifts, which was 300 that you had mentioned. We're actually going to provide a total number of 500 parking spaces, which is 200 more than our total employees for the two largest shift changes. You can see the monitor here where the parking is located just off of Midland Boulevard. And our entrance there is off of Midland Boulevard. The employee parking area is set back far enough off of Midland Boulevard to provide a landscape buffer as well as ample open space between Midland Boulevard and the parking area. There's a subdivision on the west side of Midland Boulevard directly across from the facility. There are several negative impacts to providing 1,429 parking spaces required by the Napa ordinance. The site is not large enough to provide this amount of parking. To provide the required 1,429 parking spaces, the site would lose a large amount of open space on the front of the site. You can see here, we've noted in the green the amount of open space that would be lost if we were required to provide the amount of parking. The proposed 500 parking spaces require 4.88 acres of area, while the 1,429 spaces consumes approximately 15 acres. Therefore, over 10 acres of open space would be lost to unneeded parking. The additional parking spaces will add a significant amount of impervious area, which will increase the stormwater to collect and treat on the site. The area available for stormwater detention and infiltration would also be reduced. You can see on the front of the site, we've got 2 large infiltration areas, actually 3, that would be lost if we were required to add this additional parking. Therefore, the required detention and infiltration basins would be increased, the requirement for those would be increased, while at the same time reducing the area available for these stormwater BMPs. This would make it difficult to meet the stormwater discharge requirements for this site. As Mr. Wheatley mentioned earlier in the meeting, Tractor Supply has implemented certain sustainability goals across the company. One of those goals is for all their DCs facilities to be LEED certified. The last 2 projects that we built for Tractor Supply were LEED Gold certification, and this project will pursue the same certification. The 1,429 parking spaces required will have a negative impact on the LEED certification process for the following reasons. LEED certification is based on a point system. So the loss of, or the added impervious area for this site would have a negative impact and would likely result in a loss of one of our certification points. The additional parking will also increase the heat island effect, which would also result in a lost LEED certification point. The decrease in the open space would impact our open space requirements for the LEED certification and also would lose a point there. And lastly, the increase in parking lot lighting and the increase in light pollution, as well as the increased power usage, would impact our energy study, which would potentially have multiple point loss there. Typically, local ordinances do not consider the size of these distribution centers when considering parking requirements. Therefore, the requirements are often much larger than these facilities require. Therefore, Tractor Supply respectfully requests the council members to approve this variance request. Tractor Supply is excited about the potential of locating its newest DC in Napa and feels the company is a good fit for this community. Tractor Supply is passionate about investing in the communities it calls home, supporting organizations including FFA and 4-H, local fire and police departments and military, veterans, and first responders. The facility will provide more than 500 high-quality jobs for the residents of Napa and the surrounding area. As a top employer in rural America, Tractor Supply is committed to investing in its team members through industry-leading benefits and workforce development. Thank you for your time, and can I answer any questions?
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
are you Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. In looking, is this the proposed site plan with the 500
It is,
parking spaces?
500, yeah. This current site plan shows the proposed 500.
So
for the project.
the intersection at Ustick and Midland, that area, that triangular area, is that just future development? What's your,
That will remain with the seller of the property.
okay,
We are only purchasing the property that.
from the lateral back?
That the facility is on, yeah.
Okay. And did you say how many are normal shift? Is it 150, 200?
Approximately 150, but the two largest shifts, the overlap would be about 300 that we're allowing for. And that would include office employees as well. So we're providing 500 spaces that would not only meet our needs for now, but future as well.
So do you have area as far as for public viewing of your equipment, or is that not a part of this development?
No, it's the access to the distribution center will be for employees only. It's not going to be for public access. They're not going to be selling merchandise there or marketing anything there. It's only for employee use.
Okay, thank you.
Council, do you have any other questions at this time? Thank you so much. We'll have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Rodney, are you on tonight? I am. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director, for the record. And I take full responsibility for assigning this project to my newest planner, thinking it was a really simple request. And then the project got complicated with some press that shared some inaccurate information. And so I am taking responsibility by doing this presentation tonight. But Damian Snodgrass, who did a great job on the staff report, is available for questions about details. And I did highlight some things that I changed after looking into the details, and I'll share that as we move through the project. So you've heard the request already. Here's the location. You can see at the bottom of the screen, Ustick Road, and then to the left of the property there, highlighted, is Midland Boulevard. To the north is Linden Road. So per application, just a little bit of, give you a little bit of the setting here. The warehouse distribution and wholesale is a permitted use in the IL light industrial zone. So this property has already been annexed into the city. It has already got a development agreement that requires a berm along Midland Boulevard, and the uses that are associated with the IL zone are all already in place. It's entitled for those uses. So I just want to set that as the basis for our discussion tonight, because we had significant comments on this project, but I want to set the expectation that this is not about the land use. It is about parking only. So we are only talking about the variance for the parking. And I did highlight that the conditional use permit is going before the Planning and Zoning Commission on the 10th, so next week, for, as is stated here, materials. And we are not going to be discussing that topic, though, in any kind of detail, because it's an active public hearing that will go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we don't want to receive any public testimony associated with that active public hearing that could be appealed to City Council for a decision, and we don't want to preempt that at all. So I just wanted to set that stage. This is only about the parking. The intended use of the property is permitted. It's already established, and today's application is only about the parking.
Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Is it normal practice for City Council to review an application before a CUP is allowed by the P&Z Commission?
Mayor and City Council, so normally, I think probably what you're getting at there is a conditional use permit is typically associated with a specific land use. In this case, it's a little bit different. It's not a specific land use like a multifamily would require before it would even be able to be developed. The land use here is a warehouse or a distribution center. So that is permitted, and it could go in today. What our code requires is a conditional use permit for a specific amount of liquids that could be flammable or hazardous.
So the P and Z Commission could rule about the flammable, combustible, that aspect of it only in light of their ability to yea or nay the CUP. But I heard you say that this is an approved use in the zone, so it's not something that they need conditional use approval for to be able to move forward with this project.
That's correct. The conditional use permit is only for those materials that are hazardous or flammable in excess of a certain number. So, yeah, that's correct. If this variance was approved today, and I got to be careful here. I don't want to say too much about a conditional use permit. Todd?
For full disclosure then, you made a comment about not speaking about this going forward because it's not been reviewed by the P and Z Commission, in that one of the planning and zoning commissioners works for me. Should I just not say anything about this to him, knowing that Robin's planning on meeting with him at some point? So I don't know how to approach that dynamic.
Mayor and council members, Councilmember Haverfield, I wouldn't advise that you talk to your employee about the conditional use permit. I'd stay out of that because there is a potential for appeal. So I wouldn't have a conversation with him about that. Just let him do his thing as a planning and zoning commissioner.
Should I recuse myself from this decision then?
Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, no. He's not acting as your employee as he serves on P&Z. He's acting as a citizen that serves on P&Z. And so as long as you keep that separation, and you're fine.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood the ropes.
Yeah.
But I would emphasize for the public as well that your comments tonight need to be focused on the variance and the parking issue, not on the conditional use permit issue, because it is a public hearing and decisions need to be confined to that record on that particular thing. If they have opinions regarding the conditional use permit, then what they should do is go to the hearing and provide their comments. And then if there's an appeal, then there'd be an opportunity in front of you. But comments need to be focused on the variance and those criteria that apply. Sometimes you have a little more freedom to waste your time, so to speak, if somebody wants to talk about something outside the variance criteria. But in this case, since there's a pending conditional use permit, this hearing needs to be confined to the variance, not the CUP conditions or aspects, excuse me.
Okay. Todd, thank you for that clarity, and hopefully the people here that are signed up to testify fully understand that. Two totally separate processes, and we're only taking public hearing comments tonight on the parking variance because it's a separate public hearing. So go ahead, and I'll let you finish, Rodney. Thank you.
So you've heard these conclusions or findings that you have to apply to this project in order for the variance to be approved. Again, these are the things that must be found, each of these, and so I've outlined each of those. Damien's outlined them in the staff report, and I'm going to highlight the findings that I would recommend, and then you can add to those if you desire. Okay, so the comprehensive plan designation is industrial in this area. This has been designated for industrial for a really long time. Again, this is not about the land use. So I don't want to start going down that path, but this is the surrounding uses. You can see there. The things in red, I just adjusted just to provide a little more description. So to the north is a large lot, single-family residential. It's in county jurisdiction. To the south is IL, light industrial. To the east is county jurisdiction, farmland, and a single family home, just one. Services are available to the property, and in 2024 there was a property boundary adjustment to create the shape proposed. So you can see that shape there, even though the parcel data hasn't shown that change yet. So the applicant had indicated that there will be no customers coming to this site. Semi-trucks occupy the majority of the needed parking area on the site, except for the number of employee parking that are requested. As has been stated, the largest shift is 150 people. If there were 2 of those shifts coming at the same time, and all of the cars were there at the exact same time, there would be a need of 300 parking stalls. But our code has a formula for figuring out the parking required, and it requires much more. So they are providing 730 for the trucks and 500 for the employee or customer parking. Again, it's not customer, it's employees in this case. So the required would be 1,235, but they're requesting 500. This is fairly common. We see companies come in and provide real data for what their use or what their need would be, and then we will adjust accordingly if it's possible in code, or in this case, we are required to come before you for a variance. So if employees of both shifts came at the same time, they're providing 200 additional employee parking spaces in addition to what is essentially possible with both shifts working. Correspondence. All agency comments received indicated no comment concerns impact and are therefore not included in the summary. For full details, you can look at the attachments in the staff report. Now, the public comments. We've received a lot of public comments. However, none of those comments were related to parking. They were related to the conditional use permit. So we're trying to steer clear of those comments that were provided. If there are comments tonight from the audience or from residents who came, again, we would ask them to focus those on parking. Conditions of approval, pretty standard, just one, all city standards and codes shall be followed at time of development. We put that in there even though it's a requirement anyway, but just a full disclosure, I guess. All right, so here are the proposed findings, and those are all in your staff report, but I have made a few changes. We indicated on the original one, we indicated that it was 2 times the amount of parking spaces in relation to the employees, and it's actually more than 3 times because if it were 3 times the 150, you're looking at 450 parking stalls, and they're giving 500. So that was just a clarity there. Then under number 2, the use requires significant stormwater management facilities. I think the language here was just a little bit making an argument rather than just giving the facts. So we adjusted that. Semi-truck access to the site will come from the narrow portion of the property on the southern end facing Ustick Road. Employees will access the employee parking lot from Midland Boulevard. And then the use requires significant semi-truck maneuverability, parking, and queuing. I suggested we remove the unique shape of the parcel in the conclusion because I think it's a large enough parcel that you can work with the shape. But I did add that the applicant has analyzed the maximum number of employees and has provided parking that significantly exceeds that number. So that's the conclusion change there. Number 3, literal interpretation and enforcement of the regulation would deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by the owners of other properties classified in the same zoning district. So these are the changes I recommended. And so other businesses in the IL zoning district are required to provide parking that fits the need for employees and customers. NAMPA parking code formula for warehousing is based on generalities, not on a detailed analysis of how many people will require parking. Warehouse use requires far less employees than other uses permitted in the IL zoning district. No customers are expected to visit the property. The use requires significant stormwater management facilities. Again, the more than 3 times the amount of parking spaces being provided according to their study and what they know their need will be. And then the use requires significant semi-truck maneuverability, parking, and queuing. And then I essentially summed that up at the bottom by saying, while other businesses in the same zoning district have customers, the proposed use will not accommodate customer visits, and therefore the required parking does not match the need. Finally, a detailed parking analysis based on other facilities run by the applicant indicates the code required parking is too excessive. And then we've got two more. These are all very similar to the previous ones that I provided, and so just the change on conclusion. The parking proposed exceeds the need as identified through previous experience on other facilities, and this use is unique in that I didn't finish it. I'm going to look to Damien. Did we finish this on the formal findings, this language here? In that the number exceeds the need, I think is the conclusion that we came up with. And then I can't see the bottom of this either. We're going to have to look at the formal findings. Or is that it? That might be it, and I didn't change anything. Okay, yeah, that's it. We didn't make any changes to number 5, it looks like, because of it just being, it's not about safety here. So with those, here are a couple of motions for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rodney. Yes.
So is our decision tonight have anything to do with the road frontage or just the parking on site?
It's just the parking.
Just parking. Okay. Any questions for Rodney? Thank you, Rodney. Okay, let's move into public hearing.
Madam Mayor, we do have several people signed up in advance, and our first speaker is Andrew Castillo. And on deck is Jason Hanks.
Purposely waited till the last minute to sign up to speak so that people who live near these projects can speak.
We can't even.
Okay. Would you like to be last?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next one then. Thank you.
Jason Hanks. And on deck is Emile Antoine.
Good evening, Jason. Thank you for sharing your name and your address.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Jason Hanks. I live at 10382 Hazy Glen Drive, Nampa. Appreciate you letting me come invade Nampa since we live in Caldwell, but we're right across the street from this. Looking at and we'll try and keep on topic here, we won't talk anything other than parking. My thought is we might only need 500 spots now. What about the future? Is there something in place if something goes wrong in the economy and Tractor Supply leaves? There's going to be no employee parking for whoever comes in next. So let's think about that. We have codes for a reason, and that code is 700 square feet per vehicle. Or for an average for light industrial is 1,000, so we're a little tighter than the average. What is being asked is one vehicle per 2,000 square feet. So that's for the number of employees for the size of facility. That's not too efficient. And it's been mentioned that Tractor Supply is very good for rural America, and I totally agree, and I think Tractor Supply is a great company. And all of their distributions, with the exception of a couple, are in rural areas. And I think parking should be at the code. I think it should be at least 700. If it's a hindrance to Tractor Supply, I think they should reduce truck parking. I think that's a much more feasible option. It was brought up that this 1,400 parking spots, or 1,200, would reduce the number of water retention. That's only if they don't reduce their truck space. I think that truck space can be reduced to meet the code. They have, I think it was mentioned up there, 730 truck spaces That's a huge amount of concrete space, and we need to really think about that. It paid to reduce the truck space to accommodate for potential future car spaces as needed if something changes with the owners of this facility. So that's all I have, and I'll keep the rest of my comments for next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Emile Antoine, and on deck is Angela Brinkman.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for your leadership. I appreciate your time. I'm here to ask you to deny this variance.
And go ahead and give us your address.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Emil Antoine, 18217 Troutman.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask that you deny this variance. This whole project looks like it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. First, they're asking for a variance for parking. I know that there's going to be other variances, as was previously mentioned. The fact is that maybe this project doesn't fit light industrial. Maybe it's heavy industrial. As a resident living across the street from it, I feel like I've been run over by an aircraft carrier, and I'm just trying to swim in the wake. I'm admittedly not prepared, because the first notice that I had of this was last Tuesday. Written comments were due on Wednesday. We didn't even know what it was about. This has apparently been going on for a long time. You have the funds from the Idaho Opportunity Fund. I know that didn't happen overnight. I don't know why we couldn't have been notified earlier. Maybe it's the fact that we live in a different city, but it's just not right. We're not prepared because we didn't have the time to prepare a legitimate argument against it. So, in conclusion, I just ask that you deny this variance and give us some time to regroup, because we don't know how many variances Tractor Supply is going to ask for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Angela Brinkman, and on deck is Andrew Castillo.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Angela Brinkman, 18439 Midland Boulevard. And this is my husband, Bob, my moral support. So like Emile just mentioned, I'm concerned because we got this letter on the Thursday afternoon when there's no school for an entire week, Monday through Thursday. And I happened to read what this project included through an article. So, I know we're not supposed to talk about anything except the parking, but even the screen that Rodney just had up there says industrial, not light industrial. That's a huge red flag. Okay, then we have schools that are 1/4 mile away, 2 schools. It's Sage Valley and Desert Springs. Okay, and then the East Canyon Elementary is a 1/2 mile east off of North Side, Eustic and Linden, and Ridgeview High School is less than 1 mile east. So there's 4 schools surrounding this. Okay, to me, the traffic on Midland, you guys, I know you've all been to Marketplace. You probably all love Costco. It's not good. And when I see that these cars are going to be coming and going to get here, I don't understand how it can handle it, because right now, with Middleton Road being closed for that roundabout by Linden, the traffic by us is already over the top,
Mayor,
okay?
I don't usually
So-
insert myself, but if she
Okay, go
could
ahead.
tie it to the parking, we have to talk about
Yes, I'm
parking.
trying to tie it to the parking. So they're talking about the number of employees that are coming and going, and I can't imagine that that's going to be a good thing. I just don't see it. So I'm asking that you would please table this decision until after the December 10 Planning and Zoning meeting that he's talking about. Okay, the signs for that meeting just went up, and they are located in a spot that most people aren't even going to see the sign. Okay, because there's no driveways coming and going, and it's facing, nobody's looking that way. We just happen to see it because we noticed them putting the sign in. So anyways, we would like you to table this. I'm all for Tractor Supply. I'm come from a long, fifth generation farming family. And we're still farming, so I know we need this, but I don't understand how this project can be at this location
Madam Mayor,
at this
time.
time.
Thank you
So-
very much.
I would like to ask also,
Go ahead and give us your name and address.
Bob Brinkman.
And Bob, thank you, we kind of know that, but just to follow the rules,
Okay,
because
follow
since
the
you
rules.
haven't signed up, you're welcome to testify, though. So this is great. So Bob Brinkman, and go ahead and state your address again, I'm sorry.
18439 Midland Boulevard.
Thank you.
So I feel like Nampa, whoever is pushing this, is not informing the neighborhood that is going to be impacted by this project. The cars, the parking. I would like you guys to really think about that. Because just the traffic alone, the parking, cars coming and going, it's just, with the cement plant there already, it's, I don't know, I don't think it's a good scenario. There's plenty of other properties that would fit this project that are closer to the freeway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else signed up?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Andrew Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Andrew Cascio. I live at 9975 Tiercel Lane. That's spelled Tiercel.
And is that Nampa, or where is that?
That is in Nampa.
It is in Nampa, thank you.
Yeah, on the other side of Nampa.
That's
But
okay.
we should be thinking about this holistically. So do these rules for parking exist because we want to enforce rules, or do they exist because we're trying to create a better community and to contribute to our enriched lived experience? Essentially, all of the risk here in this variance is being borne by the property holder themselves and not by the city. So if it turns out that this is insufficient parking, it's the Tractor Supply Company that needs to figure out either to get off-site parking or to use staggered shifts, or perhaps build, a parking structure that's three-dimensional so that they can have enough employees for their business. I'm inclined to think that they have a very large company. They're probably pretty competent at knowing how much parking and how many employees they need to support their business. From another perspective, I work as a financial data analyst, and we should be considering how does this financially impact the city. So parking is a very low value added land use. It's kind of something that we have to have because people have to get around, but it's not really something anyone wants. No one wants to live across from a square mile of asphalt. No one wants to, you want green space, you want buildings that people do activities in, you just have to have the parking. So if we consider that this parking really isn't needed, right, what's contributing more value to the city, both in terms of property tax and in terms of enjoyment for residents, is having green space around this light industrial land and having, a bigger distribution center that can create more economic activity, create more revenue for the city. And if anything doesn't work out with that, it's the Tractor Supply Company that has to deal with that. Finally, I'm not sure when the parking requirements in Nampa, when the current level was set, but I figure that Nampa used to have a very strong food processing industry. Over time, that's kind of gone away, and there's more higher tech or more diversified industrial. And that tends to be less labor intensive. It tends to be more capital intensive where we're going. That's the general trend in all industrial across the US. And so that means that, maybe you don't use as many employees in a factory, in a warehouse as you used to. So in the long run, definitely consider changing that parking requirement for light industrial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's it for our advance signups.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening that had not had the opportunity? Seeing no one, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and provide some closing comments.
Mayor and council, thank you for the opportunity to speak again. So I want to address some of the questions that I heard. So the need for future parking, the 500 spaces we're proposing to provide would include our needs for the future parking. As Rodney mentioned earlier, the two largest shift changes would accommodate 300 employees. So we're providing 200 additional spaces beyond what we need now. As far as Tractor Supply staying in this building, Tractor Supply has 10 distribution centers now across the United States. And they own all those buildings. They do not lease any of those buildings. They have, in some of those buildings, they've been in for a substantial amount of time. So I would not say that Tractor Supply is going to leave the site and produce a building that would not accommodate additional parking. As far as the location of other distribution centers for Tractor Supply, we do have some located in rural areas, but we also have several that are located adjacent to or in close vicinity to residential areas. And those have operated very successfully in those locations as well. As far as the trailer parking, the number that we are proposing is what's required for the operations of this facility. So reducing that number of trailer parking would significantly impact the operation of the facility. So that, as well as the employee parking, the trailer parking as well, has been determined by the client needs. This, as mentioned, Rodney had mentioned this earlier in his comments as well, the property is zoned IL light industrial, and this building being warehousing and distribution does meet that requirement. So this site is zoned for the usage of this building. As far as additional variances requested, no additional variances are going to be requested for this project. Next week, we'll be talking about a conditional use permit, which is mentioned as a different avenue, but no additional variances will be requested. We do have a traffic impact analysis that was done on the site. It has been submitted to the city for review. We received comments back from the city on several items. We resolved those items, and that traffic impact analysis has been approved by the city. We are required to provide road widening at both entrances on Midland and on Eustic, as well as providing turn lanes at both of those interchanges. So there will be mitigation required as part of the traffic impact analysis, which Tractor Supply will provide. Additionally, we are providing a landscaping buffer of 25 feet along Midland Boulevard and Eustic as well as a substantial amount of open space in the front yard along Midland. So we do plan to have, we also, as a part of that landscape buffer, there'll be a berm in there as well to provide some type of shielding from Midland and Eustic with the facility. So does the council or the mayor have any questions?
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Yes, okay. Councilman Rodriguez.
I just have a dying question I got to ask you. Common sensely speaking, when I see this lot and I see the size of the building, did Tractor Supply forget how much parking there would have been? In other words, if you'd have shortened up that building, you'd have had enough parking spaces. Is that what happened here?
No.
I'm not sure I understand the question there.
Okay. The bigger the building on your lot, the less amount of parking you have.
Correct.
Okay. What I'm wondering is if you could have shortened up that building, you'd have had more parking.
So
Thus, you wouldn't have had to get a variance.
So the building was sized based on transportation and logistic needs for this distribution center to service this part of the country. So the 870,000 square feet plus the future expansion of 150 is what's required to operate this facility, and that's why this site was chosen.
Yeah, okay.
So if we reduce the size of the building, the impact that it will have on our logistics network would not be what we require to put this facility here.
And be sure, I'm not asking you to reduce that building by any means. I just had a thought in my head.
Understand.
Are there any other questions from council?
Mayor?
Yes.
May I address one of the questions that was brought up about industrial versus light industrial? The map that I showed you was the comprehensive plan, which gives a general industrial designation. You could choose heavy industrial or light industrial. In this case, they got entitled for the zoning of light industrial. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Why that is very important is that light industrial, with the berming and the landscaping, can be amazing. It isn't negative. If this were residential on 116 acres, there would be thousands of cars, a lot more traffic. The other thing is that with our industrial design standards, we really have some great standards in place for this building. And this actually, in our future land use map, was designated industrial, which that's why there's a concrete plant out there, long before any subdivisions were built. So it's unfortunate for those that are here. I know it's frustrating to you, but this was already a land use designation long before there were any subdivisions built. Unfortunately, maybe some people weren't aware of that. So, and I will say one more thing, maybe shouldn't, but while you're my former home years ago, and my parents developed industrial right across the street. And it is, in some ways, you'd rather live right there because it does have some traffic, but with the setbacks and the berming and the landscaping, and that's the beauty of reducing the parking here, is that it gives you open green space, and it's going to make for a very lovely environment. Much, much better than if that were a large parking lot. So I think it's wonderful to see the open green space there. I don't see this as a negative impact. I would be happy to live across the street, I would say that. And I like your open green space instead of parking. So, okay, any other questions for the applicant? I'd stand for a motion. Any comment?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. I'd stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What is the will of the council?
Mayor,
Yes.
just to substantiate the parking request, since that's what we're being asked, from a standpoint of design, normally we, in the work that we do, 80% is the rule. So if you have 500 parking spaces, an 80% rule would state that 400 parking spaces would be adequate to be able to provide circulation, be able to find parking, where they're only anticipating 300. That's an additional 200 above the 80% rule that we normally design to. So I can easily justify the request to be 500 parking spaces.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve the variance of NCC 10-22-6.b requiring wholesale and storage buildings / operations when employees are regularly occupying said space to the parking requirements of 1 per 700 square feet of gross floor area on the northeast corner of Ustick Road and Midland Boulevard in the IL zoning district addressed as 0000000 and 9792 Ustick Road for Bradley Anderson, with all the proposed findings, conditions, and findings.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor, really quick question for Rodney, just because a couple citizens brought it up. Well, first I want to say I am always all for parking. I love my parking, but this makes sense and I love the green space. But Rodney, if you could just speak really quick to answer the question of the citizens and their notifications, and then also if Tractor Supply were to leave this location, say 40 years from now, we've adjusted parking to meet their needs, but some other business comes in here, does the parking then, does it come back before you guys to get additional parking to meet the city code at that time?
Thank
That
you.
was a concern. Just want to make sure those are addressed.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilwoman Jangula, thank you for those questions. I had those written down and I'm ready to speak on those. First of all, if the land use does change, we will require that they have the parking. Remember, you've got a lot of truck parking that is on the site that's not required right now. So they have quite a bit of paved space that is available for more parking, employee, customer, whatever parking, if that were to happen, and the land use were to change. But at that time, we would analyze each project request through the building permit and assess whether they have enough parking or not. We do that regularly. The second question was about the notification. So a variance is, there's a couple of things that we need to think about here. First of all, this is not a land use discussion. It's a variance request. So should the code be applied, is it unfair to them? Is it unfair to require that they have to meet that standard? That's different than, hey, I'm going to put in a distribution warehouse next to you, and you might have a property next door that you don't feel like matches that, but that decision is not before you. A variance does not include a land use decision. That already happened, and notification was sent out within 300 feet. And as required by state and local law, it was sent out to within 300 feet at time of annexation. And then the property is posted with signs that we've exceeded the sign size based on the mayor's recommendation years ago. We increased the size of those signs. And then we posted on our website. You can sign up to get notifications there as well. And then we put it in the paper. So the difference here is the variance does not require the 300-foot buffer. So the annexation and the land use was already decided with that 300-foot buffer notification. In this case, a variance does not require that. It only requires the abutting parcels. However, we still put the signs on the property. The information got out there. There was a lot of communication we've received from this subdivision. It's on social media. I think the intent is to get people aware of the project. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot of questions to us directly as planners to clarify what this project is. We get a lot of opposition to what they think it is. And so that's challenging for us, but we've done our very best to get notification out to the people who are impacted. And again, this is not a land use decision.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second on the table. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Bills?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Rodney, I would like to say, for the sake of the people here tonight, I would like us to go back out and double-check the placement of the signs. I have a high standard on those signs. They are bigger than they're required. They need to be placed to where they're easily visible and not missed. If that is not the case, then we need to get it corrected tomorrow.
Mayor, I could speak to that real quickly. They are along Midland and on U-Stick, and the problem with that is that what I've heard from people who are concerned is that people are driving fast along there and don't stop or slow down to look at those signs. There's not a lot of options we have. We have to post it on the property, and this was a very clear spot on the property next to the roadway.
Okay, as long as we have one on Midland, one on U-Stick, make sure it's clearly noted and they're facing the right angle and clearly visible and there are larger signs, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Mayor?
thank you. Yes,
I'd like to have a minute to comment.
okay?
So,
Yes, you may.
5 years ago, being on NDC, and that's the Napa Development Corp., worked with the mayor, and Robin was partially involved, but also the former economic development director. And there was a push for Nampa to work on having the north area become an industrial park area. There was invitation to all the landowners in that area. It was a very open and public event and months of taking place. And in that process, the city of Caldwell was notified. And the city of Caldwell was put on notice, this is what Nampa wants to do, and this is what is transpiring, and here's the direction. And the city of Caldwell, in my opinion, basically thumbed their nose and said, we don't care, we're putting residential, and that's the way we're dealing with it. They did not want to participate on the light industrial and the industrial side. And so there lies in the conflict, in the lack of cooperation 5 years ago and the lack of coming together, my opinion, that creates some of the angst today. And when you look at the map and you see Caldwell's approved numerous and multiple subdivisions, schools, et cetera, knowing and put on notice 5 years plus ago of industrial was Nampa's goal and purpose into the north area. So I only say it not to create argument or we know better than anybody or not to take the comments to heart. It's just, it's tough sometimes when a jurisdiction doesn't jump in and understand what the other jurisdiction is trying to do. And from both sitting in at the NDC and sitting here on council, that becomes a frustration, but even more so for the private ownership who's doing the work. When you get two jurisdictions and one just turns a deaf ear to what the other is trying to accomplish. So it's just an offerance of here's reality, but having been right involved in it, and multiple of the staff and mayor, this has been moving forward. Unfortunately, yes, it catches the new homeowners and some of the rural landowners off guard, but it's been well in motion for over 5 years. And so...
Actually, a whole lot longer than that, because it was
in
before
terms of
I
the
became
pre-planning,
mayor.
The pre-planning
Yeah,
side
pre-planning.
was happening ahead of your involvement. And so I just want to have that out on the record, so.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes, we don't have any unfinished business. That concludes our meeting this evening with the exception of, I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A to consider hiring a public official employer staff member, and E, to consider preliminary negotiations involving matters of trade.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bills?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield? Yes. Jingula?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Conference room?